Chapter 88. There was no longer any meaning in staying here any longer. Pulling Qingye, who was absent-minded, Yihua said, "Xiaojiu, call a car over." Lord Jiu immediately stood up. "I'll make the arrangements now. Boss, please wait for a while. The driver will be here soon." Yihua nodded his head. This Wei Chang and Lai Gu's temperament is very weird. As long as someone is disrespectful to me, I will kill them without saying a word. Leaving this Xiao Jiu with me can also be used to deal with some trivial matters. If Jiu Yi were to know of Yihua's thoughts, he would definitely be in a dilemma. On one hand, he wants to hug Yihua's thigh, and on the other hand, he also wants to hug Yihua's thigh to save face. Very quickly, Jiu Ye's Rolls-Royce Phantom arrived, and the driver respectfully opened the door of the car. Yihua pulled Qingye, who was absent-minded, and walked out of the side hall. The things that they are talking about are too childish. I am not interested in knowing about it, and I don't want to know about it either. Right now, I am only curious about the thoughts of Qingye, this fool. After knowing my strength, you are already stupefied. Let's see if you are still going to be naughty in the future. Qingye was indeed stupefied. Never in a million years would I have thought that the man that I randomly found would be a cultivator. I really don't know if this is good luck or bad luck. Could it be that all cultivators have such a bad temper? Asking his woman to peel crayfish and buy pancakes at every turn? On the way back, the two of them didn't converse with each other at all. Yihua was a little impatient. Could it be that this stupid woman was scared silly? "Stop at the side," Yihua said coldly. The driver didn't dare to say anything else. He had to pull over even if he had to pay a fine. After pulling Qingye, who was still in a daze, Qingye walked to the riverside and gazed into the distance. There were quite a number of couples strolling along the riverside, and there were also many elderly people dancing in the square. The main reason was that the riverside was cool. From time to time, a cool breeze would blow, making one feel relaxed and happy. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then leaned against the guardrail. Meanwhile, Qingye was standing at the side, and the breeze was blowing her beautiful hair, not knowing what she was thinking about. After finishing smoking a cigarette, Yihua was a bit irritated. Could it be that I have really become stupid? "Speak," Yihua said gravely. Qingye took a deep breath, then asked, "Yihua, do you know grafting?" "What do you mean?" Yihua slightly wrinkled his brows. "If I learn it, I can absorb your inner force." "Yihua, what's the point of learning that kind of inferior cultivation technique?" Yihua said in disdain. "This woman's hair is too long, but her experience is too short. Do you know 3 flower at one's prominence?" Yihua's frown deepened. "No, then do you know the Nining Sutra?" Yihua had the thought of smacking Qingye's butt. Not yet. Where's the Dark North Divine Art?" "You can't even do that. Buddha's palm headquarters, right?" "Sigh, Yihua, could it be that you have cultivated the Sunflower Manual?" Yihua couldn't bear it anymore, and hugged Qingye into his embrace. "Don't you know whether or not I have practiced the Sunflower Treasured Book?" Qingye let out a breath. "Just now, I just wanted to tease Yihua a bit, and upon discovering that he is still the same as before, I can finally be at ease. Just that, with the additional identity of a cultivator, I don't know if I will be able to gain face for myself if I were to tell others about it. For example, other people say, 'My husband is worth tens of billions. Where does your husband come from?'" Qingye placed her hands on her waist and shouted out proudly, "Your husband is nothing. My husband is someone from the cultivation world." If Yihua knew what Qingye was thinking right now, he would definitely give Qingye a lecture. To actually compare yourself with that kind of low-rank job. "Are you really someone from the cultivation world?" Qingye asked. Yihua didn't know how to reply. What the hell is the cultivation world? If I were to deny right now, would she go back on her words? After all, what I am betting on is whether I am a cultivator or not. However, admitting that I am a cultivator, I feel really low. However, for the sake of teaching Qingye a lesson, I might as well be a little low. Seems like for this woman, my bottom line is getting lower and lower. "Yes," Yihua said indifferently. "Then, are you very powerful, the kind that can blow up a car with a punch, and can even fly into the sky?" "Yes." "Then can I fly on a sword? Can I fly into space?" "But there is no oxygen, Yihua." Do you not want to breathe anymore? A few black lines appeared on Yihua's forehead. No wonder you were like that night. So you are a cultivator. You must have taken your medicine. Yihua was really angered and said coldly, You can come and give it a try tonight. TSK, I won't fall for it. Don't think that just because you are a cultivator, I have to hug onto your thigh and listen to your words. Qingya pushed Yihua away, stood in front of Yihua, raised her chin, and said confidently. Yihua said gravely, Did you forget about your vow? What vow? I don't know what you are talking about. I knew that you would be like this. Yihua took out his phone and played Qingya's recording. If Yihua is really a cultivator, I, Qingya, promise that I will be obedient in the future. Yihua will be my sky, alright? After listening to her vow, Qingya immediately understood. I was tricked by Yihua again. I won't accept this, you lied to me. Qingya raised up her small fist again, but unfortunately, her wrist was grabbed onto by Yihua. Yihua knew that Qingya would go back on her words and said coldly, Do you think that your small fist will be able to harm me? Qingya's expression immediately sunk as she said, I know that you are a cultivator now, and you are very powerful. I am just an ordinary woman, and I am completely not your opponent. If you want to hit me, then go ahead and hit me. In any case, there is no one in this world who would feel sorry for me. After hearing what Qingya said, Yihua went into a daze. Why do I feel that I am the one in the wrong? If I wanted to hit you, I would have long slapped you into the sky. Look, your expression is that of anger. Go ahead and hit me. In any case, I don't have the strength to fight back. Qingya said faintly. Her resentment soared to the sky, and the people who were passing by were able to sense that heavy resentment. Even if they were separated by a screen, they would still be able to smell it. Yihua resisted the urge to smack Qingya's butt. Do you really think that I don't dare to hit you? You are a cultivator. You are the biggest. Whatever you say goes. Qingya spread out her hands helplessly. Don't compare me with cultivators. Yihua shouted out lightly. Cultivators are nothing. Just a fart is enough to crush us to death. Sigh, my husband is using his identity to oppress me, sigh. Yihua suddenly felt that if he were to tell her a little bit of things, she would be able to soar into the sky. If I had known that this would happen, I would have kept it a secret. To actually say that I am using my identity to oppress me, you are clearly the one who lost the bet. Seeing that Yihua was not speaking, Qingya rubbed her ankle and said lightly, I can't walk anymore. Take a taxi by yourself. Yihua said petulantly, then lit up another stick of cigarette. Qingya snorted coldly, then made a flower-pinching finger gesture. I don't know who was the one who said that as long as my ankle hurts, you will have to carry me on your back. And you are even a cultivator. Your mouth sure is full of nonsense. Cough, cough, cough. This was the first time that Yihua choked on his own cigarette. Originally, I wanted to use the recording to educate Qingya, but in the end, I didn't expect that my identity would instead become a handle that Qingya could use against me. She is even a cultivator. If I were to tell her my real identity, things would get out of hand. Forget it, forget it. I will just slowly walk back. The identity of a cultivator is noble. How can I carry my wife on my back? If this matter were to be spread out, I would lose so much face. Qingya suddenly added a sentence. Chapter 89. Come up. After a while, Yihua suppressed the impulse in his heart and shouted out coldly. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Qingya's mouth. Then she turned her head and said, Really? You won't throw me into the river, right? Come up. I don't want to say it a second time. Yihua really wanted to turn back time. This woman is truly much smarter than what I imagined her to be. Qingya immediately arrived behind Yihua and patted on Yihua's back. Squat down a bit, as the almighty supreme overlord. Yihua felt tired and helpless as he slowly bowed his body. This is the first woman that dares to be so arrogant towards me. Qingya suddenly jumped up and wrapped her spotlessly white arms around Yihua's neck. Meanwhile, Yihua began to walk forward, and the scene was rather comical. Because Yihua didn't hold on to Qingya's legs, right now, it was as if Yihua was carrying a corpse. Qingya, who was on Yihua's back, immediately shouted out, Yihua, if you don't want to carry me, just say it. What are you trying to do this time? This cannot be blamed on Yihua. After all, he had never turned his back on anyone before. Don't you know how to hold my legs? Do you want to drag me home? Yihua took a deep breath. You are the first woman who dares to shout at me. What's wrong? Did I hurt the dignity of the cultivators? Don't mention cultivators to me. Right now, Yihua hated cultivators to the core. And he really wanted to get rid of all of the cultivators. It was precisely because of the cultivators that he was teased by this woman. Qingye pouted and did not provoke Yihua anymore. Because she discovered that Yihua was currently walking towards the riverside unknowingly. Qingye walked to the street, and Qingye became the object of envy of all women. Look at the others. They all know how to carry their girlfriends. Why don't you carry me? Then why don't you look at other people's girlfriends' bodies? As long as I carry you, you have to give me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You're so annoying. You want to take advantage of me again. The skinny man was already in despair. Was I talking about taking advantage of her? I'm talking about how fat you are. Oh my God, this is so hopeless. Leaning on that broad and sturdy back, Qingye felt extremely safe. Towards the envious gazes that other people were casting at her, she also happily accepted them. If you guys have the ability, then go and find a cultivator husband to carry as well. Yihua, Qingye called out softly. Yihua lightly nodded. In actuality, he was silently praying in his heart that Lai Gu and Wei Chang must not see this. Will you really hit me? Yihua stopped his footsteps and immediately slapped onto Qingye's perky butt. Do you think that I dare or not? Qingye was stupefied. This fellow actually dared to spank but in front of so many people, shameless, without waiting for Qingye to start scolding. Yihua took the initiative and said, I have a voice recording as evidence. You better be more obedient in the future. If not, I will spank your butt until it is swollen. Qingye pouted her small mouth. Humph, you are a cultivator, so of course you can only rely on your martial strength. Yihua remained silent. I swear, tonight, I am going to properly teach Qingye a lesson, and let her know the consequences of going back on her words. Not long after, Yihua arrived at Leisure Bar while carrying Qingye on his back. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Yihua walked upstairs. Wei Chang swore that he would definitely tell this scene to Lai Gu. Bang! The bedroom door was heavily closed by Yihua. Qing Yutong naturally heard what happened, and immediately ran over to the corner of the bedroom to eavesdrop. Brother-in-law and big sister sure are passionate every single day. Sure enough, in just a few seconds, big sister's panting sound could be heard from the bedroom. Qing Yutong's entire body was in a bad state. Brother-in-law is simply too ferocious. Big sister's panting is not panting anymore. She is almost shouting for help. The two of them are simply too hardcore. So perverted on the spacious bed. Yihua was currently teaching Qingye a lesson. Don't think too much. I am just placing Qingye on my thighs and spanking that sexy little butt of hers. The amount of force that I control is just right, just that. Isn't Qingye's scream too exaggerated? Ah, Yihua. I have seen through you. You only know how to hit your wife. Ah, let me tell you, Yihua. If I am stronger than you, I will use the same posture to spank you. Ah, you bastard, are you addicted to spank me? Ah, I am a pregnant woman. You can't spank me like this. Suddenly, Yihua recalled that Qingye was still pregnant with his blood, and immediately stopped. Come on. Why did you stop? Cultivator. Qingye shouted out coldly. Yihua let out a sigh, then helped Qingye up and said seriously, Qingye, can you not make me worry a bit less? Qingye looked at Yihua in disbelief, then directly pushed Yihua onto the bed and said, Who are you saying is not making you worry? How am I not making you worry? You explain clearly to me. Yihua was a bit absent-minded as he stared at the face that was right in front of him, and that charming red lips. Suddenly he recalled that night, that soft feeling, and expressed that he still wanted to try. Sure enough, under Qingye's adorable expression, Yihua kissed onto Qingye's lips. Yihua thought to himself in his heart, it is still that kind of soft and a bit sweet. Bang! At this moment, the door was suddenly pushed open by Qing Yutong. Yihua and Qingye, who were on the bed, immediately looked at Qing Yutong, who suddenly appeared with cold eyes. I heard that the two of you didn't make a sound, and I thought that the two of you had perished together. I will leave now. The two of you can continue, don't bother about me, bye-bye. Qing Yutong immediately left. The gaze of brother-in-law and big sister is so scary. Yihua pushed Qingye away and said calmly, I am going to take a bath. In actuality, his heart was not calm at all. Oh, Qingye, who was angry just a moment ago, also cowered and sat cross-legged on the bed in a daze. The atmosphere between the two of them immediately became awkward. Even after Yihua came out from the bath, Qingye did not say anything, and just rushed into the bath. After that, the two of them just lay on the bed, one on the other side, and neither of them spoke first. Is your phone turned off? Yihua asked lightly. He was unable to hold it in anymore. Qingye's tone was also not that cold. It is turned off. Just that. The two of them spoke one after another, and the atmosphere instantly quietened down. Roughly half an hour later, Qingye finally could not hold it in anymore and asked lightly, Are you asleep? If you want to come over, then come over. Yihua said faintly, This woman really wants to save face. Qingye snorted and lightly moved her body, then closed her eyes and hugged onto Yihua. As if by doing this, she would not find out. She was purely deceiving herself. Just that, Yihua's heartbeat is a bit fast today. Why is my heartbeat also following the rhythm? This fellow is indeed messing around with the rhythm. Yihua, you are a cultivator, and I am just an ordinary person, will you? Before Qingye finished speaking, Yihua interrupted and said solemnly, I won't. This was the tacit understanding that a husband and wife should have. There were some words that the other party did not need to finish speaking, and the other party would know. Yihua was just like this. Qingye's character was more or less clear. To put it simply, she was a hedgehog that did not have any sense of security. Before tonight, Qingye felt that the gap between her and Yihua was not that big. In any case, Yihua was also the boss of a bar, and both of them were bosses. However, now it had changed. Yihua was not only a boss, he was also a cultivator, and in the novels, he was able to ascend to immortality. The huge sense of loss made Qingye very melancholy, feeling that Yihua was suddenly very far away from her. Thus, she made Yihua look as angry as usual, and the facts proved that Yihua was still the same. However, she kept feeling that she would lose Yihua, perhaps on the day when the child was born. After all, the promise that she made on that day was still lingering in her mind. Chapter 90. Carrying along this uneasy feeling, Qingye gradually fell asleep. Hugging onto Yihua while sleeping is very comfortable. If I suddenly lose him one day, I will probably suffer from insomnia. Right now, Yihua was also thinking blindly, but he wasn't as emotional as Qingye. Instead, he was thinking about how to get back my face. Could it be that I have to show off my manliness in front of her? I wonder if killing millions of people would be enough. If that's the case, she would willingly submit to me. This doesn't seem right. Just what is wrong? This is so vexing. Just like that, the two gradually fell asleep with their own feelings, until the sound of knocking on the door rang out in the morning, waking Yihua and Qingye up. Brother-in-law, big sister, Qing Yutong stood outside the door and shouted. From her tone, one could tell that she was asking for someone. Yihua patted onto Qingye's shoulder. Go and open the door. Qingye grabbed onto her hair. What are you doing so early in the morning? What's the matter? Qingye opened the door and asked angrily. Qing Yutong could be seen to have already changed her clothes. Wearing a big round hat and sunglasses, she should be considered to be fully armed. Big sister, didn't you tell me to go to Gaohai City today? It's so dangerous for me to go to the airport alone. Aren't you and brother-in-law going to send me off? Qing Yutong blinked her beautiful eyes, pulled onto Qingye's arm, and said coquettishly. Qingye wrinkled her brows. You are already an adult. Do you still need to send me off? Can't you just drive directly to the airport? Big sister, you don't even care about your little sister. My heart hurts. Yihua was no longer sleepy. He got off the bed and said, Let's just go and send her off and eat breakfast on the way. The corner of Qing Yutong's mouth twitched. I feel like it's all thanks to breakfast. Since the man has already spoken, what else can Qingye say? She went to wash up. 15 minutes later, The two were ready. Xingye, on the other hand, was very happy right now, because there was no need for her to put on makeup. Her face was simply too stunning. Thinking back to the meet on that day, Xingye was very curious. Could it really be dragon meat? Yutong drive. Xingye threw the car key to her little sister. Xing Yutong knew that it would be like this. The two of them were masters, especially brother-in-law. That expression of his was just like an emperor coming out of the palace. Sitting on the Audi A8, Xing Yutong successfully obtained the identity of the driver, while Xing Yutong and Xingye sat at the back. Xing Yutong, who was driving the car, silently thought to herself, last night, they were clearly quarreling so much, and in the end, when I knocked open the door to take a look, I saw that they were actually lying on the bed and kissing. Yutong, for the next few days, properly cooperate with us, alright? Don't cause any trouble again. Xingye reminded. Xingye understood her younger sister's personality very well. Yutong was puzzled. Qing said, Yutong, I said. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 days. You have to get it done. Alright, in any case, you all just want to chase me away. When is my little nephew coming out? By then, we would have already run away from home. Yutong. Qing. Xingye was filled with melancholy. It was as if she had already seen her child running away from home along with her younger sister. Ye said, I, Qing. I, by day, I. Quiet down, what's there to quarrel about? Yihua said gravely, quarreling every day. This is giving me a headache. The two goddess-like women pouted and quietened down. Half an hour later, Xing Yutong finally arrived at the airport. Aren't you two coming down to send me off? Yihua and Xingye directly ignored her, and Xingye even went up to the car and stepped on the accelerator, leaving behind Xing Yutong, who had an adorable look on her face. Ah, these two are simply angering me to death. They don't have a bit of sympathy. Let me tell you. I am going to run away from home for half a month. Seems to be a bit long, 1 week then. Let's see if you two are anxious or not. Xing Yutong, who was throwing a small tantrum, walked into the airport and immediately attracted attention. Although she was fully armed, her temperament could not be changed. Don't look at how Xing Yutong was carefree in front of Yihua and Xingye. When she met outsiders, she would change. After all, Yihua and Xingye were her relatives. In the car, Yihua said faintly, let's go out for a walk today. Cultivator, do you want to go on a date with me? Xingye teased. The corner of her mouth unconsciously raised up. Can you remove the word cultivator from your mouth? Can't you speak properly? Yihua felt that telling her that he was a mistake. If he were to directly tell her that he was a supreme overlord, things would get out of hand. Xingye laughed tenderly. Alright, I will remove it from your mouth, alright? After remaining silent for a while, Yihua asked, what do you think of my personality? Xingye was very puzzled. This fellow is not normal today. Do you still have a personality? Those who don't know would think that you are an emperor. Your face is cold every day. And you even have problems with the most basic communication. Yihua, are you sick? Autism, you are also a cultivator. You have to hide your identity. Xingye. Yihua shouted out gravely. This woman can't even leave the word cultivator out of her mouth right now. To even say that I am sick. Her guts are really getting bigger and bigger. Look, after saying a few sentences of yours, you are jumping up again. As a human, you have to learn to be calm. Don't think that just because you are a cultivator that you are superior to others. You have to learn to integrate with others. Cultivator again. Yihua really regretted admitting that he was a cultivator right now. After taking in a few deep breaths, Yihua calmly asked, is there any way to solve it? Do I really have to solve it? Xingye found it hard to believe. Yihua couldn't be having a fever today, right? I am thinking too much. Yihua just felt that learning human nature was not something that one could learn on the surface. One had to put it into practice. However, talking to these low-grade creatures, I feel very uncomfortable. I wonder how Wei Chang did it. Yihua lightly grunted, feeling that he had lost a lot of face. I will bring you to a place. I guarantee that you will be able to get rid of those bad habits of yours. Xingye felt that today was really wonderful. Yihua is finally obedient. Bad habits. Yihua said gravely. This is the dignity of a supreme overlord. But when it comes to her mouth, it became a bad habit. Could it be that it is a good habit? Xingye snorted. Half an hour later, Xingye brought Yihua to a place that was overcrowded with people, the pedestrian street of Long'an City. Last time, I even came here to eat skewers. Why did you bring me here? Yihua asked faintly. Don't think too much, come with me. Xingye held onto Yihua's big hand and walked into Audie's specialty store. Inside the specialty store, there were almost all female salespeople. And when they saw such a handsome guy, they all rushed over. When they saw the woman beside Yihua, they immediately stopped their footsteps. The woman was so beautiful that it made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Xingye sized up the sportswear, then looked at the suit that Yihua was wearing. Don't dress so solemnly all day. When it is time to relax, relax. Yihua remained silent. What are you in a daze for? Go and buy it. Xingye pushed Yihua, letting Yihua take the initiative to ask. Chapter 91. Yihua's breathing became a bit hurried. Are these small fries even qualified to talk to me? However, I have to assimilate into the human race. Assimilate. If I am unable to control my emotions later on, Xingye will have to take the blame. Come over. Yihua shouted out gravely. The big sister was given a fright as she walked towards Yihua while trembling with fear, and her face was a bit pale. Xingye held onto her forehead. Can you be a bit more gentle? What are you being so fierce for, fight? Shut up. Yihua said petulantly. Xingye snorted coldly, then walked to the side and ignored Yihua. Yihua rubbed his temples. Sooner or later, I will explode from anger because of Xingye. Xingye, come over. Xingye, who was pretending to choose clothes, snorted, but she still walked over. I'm sorry, my husband is sick. He has a language barrier. Just a moment ago you even roared at me. See if I don't teach you a lesson. Don't think that you can bully me just because you are a cultivator. Oh, so it's like that. The big sister was relieved. She was scared to death. Right now, Yihua's mood was just like Jianyun's mood yesterday, constipated. Beauty, does this set of clothes come with a couple's outfit? Xingye asked curiously. The waiter smiled and said, Miss, of course. Xingye poked the angry Yihua. What are you doing? Bargaining. Xingye shook her head. This husband of mine is just like a child, he doesn't know anything. Yihua's brows wrinkled deeply. Have I ever seen a supreme overlord haggling over the price when buying something? This wasn't bargaining, this was lowering the price. If word of this got out, where would his face go? We need to interact more with each other. Xingye said in a low voice. Yihua took a deep breath, then asked, How much? The lady was still very shy. She looked at the price and said, 489 yuan. Hearing that humans like to bargain with the lowest price, Yihua had an answer in his heart and said gravely, Too expensive, 1 RMB. The big sister was instantly stupefied, and even Xingye was stupefied. This fellow isn't messing with me, right? However, looking at that incomparably serious face of his, he doesn't seem to be joking with me. Sir, although you are handsome, you can't bargain like this. The young lady wanted to cry. Even a handsome guy couldn't bully people like this. Xingye was hating iron for not becoming steel. How can it be returned like this? Let me do it, you learn more from me. Xingye let out a sigh. To think that I, the madam, would still have to do it. Seems like Yihua has cultivated himself to the point that he became stupid. Xingye picked up her clothes and touched it, then frowned and said faintly, 489 is too expensive, how about this, 488? What an auspicious number. This time, it was Yihua's turn to be a little stupefied. This is called bargaining? It seemed that this woman was even more ignorant than he was. She was still pretending to know. Even the waiter was laughing. The young lady felt that they were very strange. One was silly while the other was cute. They were a perfect match. Of course. Xingye raised her chin proudly and said towards Yihua, Did you see that? This is called bargaining. It is truly a miracle that your company didn't go bankrupt. Yihua shook his head helplessly. What do you know? You can't mix the two together, okay? Hurry up and bargain like me. I can't do it. As expected, Yihua refused. How can you be like this? Didn't you say you wanted to have a good conversation? Yihua said faintly. I have already had enough exchanges with you. Qingye went into a daze, then pulled onto Yihua's sleeves. Where did you learn those sweet words from? They are quite alluring. Yihua took a look. Communicating with you is already troublesome enough. I don't want to add more troubles. Qingye knew that it would be like this. This fellow just doesn't know how to say some sweet words. Quickly go and change your clothes. It is so dark all day. Can't you be a bit more sunny? Qingye shoved the clothes into Yihua's hands. If I didn't appear, you can just be a single dog for your entire life. Who would be able to endure your temper? Yihua did not refuse, and walked into the changing room with the clothes. Qingye also chose a set of clothes, and walked into the changing room to change. When the two walked out of the changing room, no matter if it was the staff of the store, or the people who came to buy clothes, all of them were shocked. Yihua, who had changed into the sportswear, indeed looked a lot more sunny, less calm, and more gentleness. Qingye was the same too. It was as if she had become the big sister next door. Simply too childish. This was the portrayal of Yihua's inner heart. Tsk, look how handsome he is. The only thing that Qingye felt fortunate about was that her husband was still pleasing to the eye, to the point that she wouldn't get tired of looking at him. It could be said to be a great fortune within misfortune. Yihua was very unnatural as he urged, quickly go. Go and pay the bill. I didn't bring any money with me. Why didn't you even bring any money? Yihua was speechless. She definitely did it on purpose. You are my husband. When we are outside, I definitely need you to count the money. Of course, you are a cultivator. You can completely force me to do things. Yihua simply didn't have the slightest bit of temper. The biggest mistake in this lifetime was yesterday night. I originally wanted to use my identity to shock Qingye, but in the end, it had the opposite effect. Seeing that Yihua obediently went to count the money, Qingye was still very happy. She went up and held on to the man who was throwing a small tantrum. Men, after all, have to be coaxed. If not, why would they be obedient? Although I am an ordinary person, and my husband is a cultivator, but so what? Yihua is still obedient. I will take care of you when we return home tonight. Yihua said gravely. If I don't beat you up for a day, you will start to climb up the beam and tear down the tiles. Qingye could be seen touching her abdomen. Baby, Daddy is going to hit Mommy. What do you think I should do? My God. Yihua is not only regretting yesterday night, he is also regretting that night. This woman is simply like a curse to me. The two returned to the pedestrian street. Qingye looked at Yihua, who was sullen, and felt that it was very funny. She asked lightly, Yihua, last night, you secretly kissed me. Here it comes again. I already have 3 of my weaknesses in her hands. I simply want to die. If you are not happy, you can kiss me back. Yihua said gravely. I, the Supreme Overlord, would also have such a day. I really didn't expect that. Qingye tiptoed and said sweetly. As long as you admit that you are a swindler, I can let you do whatever you want, just like that night, immediately. The anger within Yihua's body rose rapidly, causing Yihua to turn pale with fright. I am actually being controlled by this woman. How is this possible? The words that I, Yihua, have said before are of enormous weight. All right, let's see how long you can keep your words to yourself for. Qingye's breath was like an orchid. She had Yihua firmly in her grasp. Seeing that Yihua was angered to the point that he was speechless again, Qingye said sweetly, how about we go and take a risk? What do you mean? Let's just sit on a random car and go wherever we go, how about it? In actuality, Qingye had a small wish, and that was to go on a trip without any purpose. Boring. Let's go. Qingye, when did you learn Yutong's moves? Yihua wrinkled his brows. Qingye's expression immediately changed as she shouted out coldly, are you going or not? Actually, it is also good to learn from Yutong. Chapter 92. After getting on the bus, Qingye quickly fell asleep while leaning on Yihua's shoulder. It was only at this time that Yihua felt that Qingye was very obedient, and when she woke up, she became like a little demon. After half an hour of driving, the two got off the bus, and changed into the minibus. Who knows where this minibus is heading to? Teacher, stop for a moment. Looking at the scenery outside, Chinya couldn't help but shout out. After getting off the car, Chinya stretched her body and said comfortably, "The air here is fresh." Yihua lit up a cigarette, expressing that he was very bored. A truck carrying pigs passed by, and the truck carried a strange smell. Chinya's comfortable face immediately turned black, and even Yihua's face was the same. "This is the good place that you chose," Yihua said petulantly. Chinya was a little embarrassed. "How would I know? Can't you treat me a bit more gently? Hold my hand, and close your eyes." "What? You want to steal a kiss from me again?" Chinya's heart was beating faster. "Who wants to kiss you? I am just changing places." Yihua let out a light sigh. "I really don't know what she is thinking about all day long." "Tisk, let's see what kind of flower you can conjure up." Chinya snorted coldly and pulled onto Yihua's hand. 1 seconds later, Yihua said, "We're here." Chinya slightly opened her eyes. Just a moment ago, everything in front of her eyes had changed. What she could see was a green lake, and all around her were towering trees. This was the real utopia. "Yihua, have we transmigrated?" Yihua poked onto Chinya's forehead. "Just what is going on in that little head of yours?" Chinya stuck out her tongue, then ran to the lakeside and opened up her arms. Yihua followed behind her unhurriedly with a cigarette in his mouth. With a wave of his hand, 2 chairs and a small table immediately appeared. On the table was a dragon blood wine, as well as the meat of star-cleansing sparrow and golden delicate crane. "Don't just stand there. Come and sit down." When Chinya turned her head around to take a look, she was first startled by the things that suddenly appeared, and soon after she muttered, "Having a cultivator as a husband sure is good. He can even bring so many things with him." Another cultivator. Yihua really wants to throw Chinya into the lake to calm down. Lying on the chair, Chinya took a sip of the dragon blood wine and said, "We will be able to save a lot of money on transportation fees in the future." Yihua didn't want to talk anymore. "Yihua, are you able to transmigrate to another world?" Chinya asked curiously. "It's simple." Upon hearing that it was okay, Chinya became interested. "When are you going to bring him over to play with me?" "Let's talk about it after you give birth." "That's true." Speaking of children, Chinya rubbed onto her flat stomach and asked curiously, "Yihua, will our children be like Superman when they are born?" "Chinya, don't compare children with those inferior races," Yihua said in displeasure. Chinya muttered, "I'm just asking, why are you getting angry again?" After eating a small mouthful of the star-cleansing sparrow's meat, Chinya seemed to have thought of something, and her mood instantly became gloomy. "Yihua, how long can you two live?" Chinya asked gravely. Yihua finally knew what Chinya was thinking about. This woman is actually worried about this. Thus, I decided to tease her a little. "A very, very long time," Yihua said leisurely. "Then when I get old, will you still be so young?" Chinya's eyes turned red. "When I think about how old I am, and how Yihua is still the same as before, I even have the heart to die. This silly woman. She is eating the star-cleansing sparrow's meat, and she is still worried about her appearance." Yihua said faintly, "If nothing unexpected happens, it will be like this." This time, Chinya was really sad, and tears of helplessness fell out from her eyes. If only Yihua was an ordinary person. Yihua didn't expect that Chinya's reaction would be so big. He was startled for a moment, then said slowly, "Of course, I also have a way." "What way? Teach me." Hearing that there was a way, Chinya was like a person who was drowning, tightly grabbing onto that life-saving straw. For people like us, every part of our body is where the essence lies, so Chinya went into a daze for a moment, then immediately jumped onto Yihua's body and punched onto his chest. "Yihua, I didn't expect you to be so shameless and perverted." Yihua lightly hooked onto Chinya's chin and said with a light smile, "Such a beautiful face. How can I bear to let you grow old?" "You are teasing me again, Yihua. I hate you. What a silly woman." Yihua laughed out loud, then hugged onto Chinya's soft and delicate body. "Hugging onto my body feels very comfortable." Ripples appeared on the surface of the clear lake, and a light breeze blew onto Chinya's soft and beautiful hair. Yihua caressed onto Qingya's beautiful hair. If only you didn't talk back to me. Qingya closed her eyes and said, if only you didn't act cool all the time. Pa Yihua couldn't help but smack onto Qingya's, but the one who acts cool all the time is you, right? Qingya opened her beautiful eyes and shouted out, you only know how to smack my butt. Your butt sure is bouncy, it feels good. Yihua, right now, other than acting cool, you have also become a hooligan. Yihua hugged onto Qingya tightly. What's wrong with me acting like a hooligan towards my own wife? Qingya felt that this couldn't go on, so she said to Yihua, I want to learn martial arts. Oh, why do you suddenly want to? Because I want to defeat you, and then bully you. Qingya turned around and rode onto Yihua's body. Her posture was too explosive. Yihua laughed lightly. Your way of thinking is perfect, but you won't be able to succeed. In this lifetime, I am definitely going to bully you. If you don't teach me, who would know? Perhaps, you know that my talent is extremely good, and you are afraid that I will surpass you. Qingya expressed that she was not convinced. Failure isn't scary. What is scary is that you still believe in this sentence. Qingya pouted. How do you know that I will fail? From the moment you said that you want to surpass me, you were destined to fail. You are just stingy, Yihua. Yihua sighed, then held onto Qingya's small hand, pointed towards the infinity ring and said, with this ring, you are already invincible. Qingya was confused. Other than looking good, this ring doesn't seem to have any other use. In the future, you will know, my woman. Why must you cultivate so bitterly? It is just like playing a game. We are all pay-to-win players, and we will forever be ahead of normal players. From level 1 to level 100, it is just a ding. Qingya touched onto Yihua's forehead. Your illness is acting up again. Yihua raised his hand, and was about to smack onto Qingya's forehead, scaring Qingya to the point that she jumped up and immediately ran away. See if I don't smack you today. You have to catch me first. Qingya still had the innocence of a child and made a funny face. If Qing Yutong were to see this, she would definitely rub her eyes. Is big sister infected by me? You run slower. Don't slip and fall. Yihua warned gravely. You are still so crazy even though you are pregnant. Chapter 93. Suddenly, a cry for help came from the forest. A man covered in blood rushed out. His panicked face made it seem as if there was a great flood or fierce beast behind him. Save me, save me. The man ran towards Qingya, who was in a daze. Unexpectedly, his legs became crooked, and he tripped over himself. He slid for a full 3 meters, before finally stopping in front of Qingya's feet. His chin was almost bruised. Yihua snorted coldly. How can my woman be touched by someone like you? Yihua, quickly come and save them. Qingya finally came back to her senses and shouted out loudly. Yihua walked over unhurriedly and sized up the man. He discovered that the man did indeed have injuries. But the injuries were not as serious as what he had shown. Furthermore, the fainting that the man was showing right now was just an act. Qing Yuan felt that he was really unlucky today. He heard that this mountain range was extraordinary, so he specially came over to check it out. In the end, he bumped into a disciple of the Cloud sect. Luckily, he escaped quickly, but he also discovered an unknown secret. If this news were to be leaked out, the entire cultivation world would be shaken. The Cloud sect actually secretly dug up a dragon vein. However, he was injured. If he continued like this, he would definitely be caught. Coincidentally, he saw a couple camping by the lake. After observing them for a while, he felt that they were both good people. After all, they were so in love with each other. The beautiful woman was running around like a child, shouting for him to come and catch her. She was really cute and kind. The man doted on the woman very much, so he was probably a kind-hearted person. When he saw someone like him in trouble, he would definitely help. Look at this beauty is anxiously shouting to save me. I am so happy, hurry up and drive me away. What happened? Yihua walked over and asked lightly. I don't know, he just ran out from the forest, quickly save him. Qingya pulled onto Yihua's hand and shouted out anxiously. Yihua appeared very serious and said, Qingye, don't worry, it's nothing big. Qing Yuan, who was lying on the ground, cursed under his breath. What kind of look was that? He was covered in blood, yet he said that he was fine. Only a fool would believe him. Then I can rest assured. Qingye patted on her chest and let out a sigh of relief. Qing Yuan froze. How could you believe such words? Don't believe a man's mouth, believe your own eyes. Qingye naturally believed in Yihua. After all, Yihua was a cultivator. Then, why isn't he waking up? Qingye walked over to Qing Yuan's side and asked curiously. He might have fainted from the fall. Just get some water to wake him up. That's right, why didn't I think of that? Qingye slapped onto her forehead. I am truly becoming more and more stupid. Qing Yuan felt that he should wake up. There were wounds on his body, and he couldn't touch water. Just as Qing Yuan was thinking, a comfortable feeling spread across his face, and his body couldn't help but tremble. Yihua, it's moving. It moved. But why hasn't she woken up yet? Not enough water. Oh, Qing Yuan was shocked. He couldn't do this, he was about to wake up. Cough, cough, cough. Qing Yuan coughed violently. Perhaps he wanted to make it look more realistic, so he used a little more force. Who knew that he would cough out blood? He couldn't stop coughing. Qingye was frightened by the bloody scene in front of her. Yihua, is he going to die? He's fine. He's just coughing out blood. He'll be fine soon. Qing Yuan's heart crumbled. Who the F***ck would cough up blood like this? How could these two people not know this common sense? 1 minute later. Yihua, why hasn't he stopped? Seems like he has a lot of blood. Qingye, lay him down. Yihua said faintly. Without waiting for Qingye to act, Qing Yuan had already laid down himself. Could it be that Yihua is going to give me artificial respiration? Such a beautiful woman, I'm so happy. What do we do next? Qingye asked curiously. Yihua pointed at Qing Yuan's chest. This person's blood is all accumulated in his chest. If we don't take care of it in time, he might suffocate to death. Ah, so serious? Qingye was shocked. And Qingye, use your foot and step on his chest. Use a bit of strength, and he will be able to vomit out all of the extravasated blood. Yihua said very earnestly, and Qingye had never seen Yihua being so earnest before. Qingye wrinkled her brows. Will it really work? Qingye, look at how much pain he is in, hurry up. Qing Yuan couldn't care so much anymore. These two are simply inhumane. I am already coughing out blood, and they still want to step on my chest. Do they even have a bit of medical common sense? This beauty actually believed in my words. Cough. No. Cough, cough, cough. Qing Yuan wanted to leave. He didn't want to be stepped on by Qingye. Qingye took a deep breath. Mister, don't be anxious. My husband will cure you. Cure your sister. How is he going to cure me? He is going to take my life. You are going to be his accomplice. Bear with it a bit. Qingye closed her eyes and raised her foot. Cough, 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 cough. Qing Yuan went crazy. Even if you want to step on my chest, you should at least open your eyes. Who would step on my chest with their eyes closed? Sure enough, Qingye did as Yihua said and heavily stepped on Qing Yuan's chest. As expected, the coughing stopped, and Qingye let out a breath. Yihua's method is really useful. Yihua couldn't help but shiver. The place where Qingye's foot landed was too dangerous. Not to mention coughing. Even if it was a heavy injury, one would still faint. Opening her beautiful eyes, Qingye looked at the place where her foot landed and took in a breath of cold air. Then immediately looked towards Yihua. Yihua, I didn't do it on purpose. I just wanted to save him. Yihua shook his head. Quickly go and get some water to splash him to wake him up. Qingye, who was embarrassed, immediately took some water and splashed it on him again. When he wakes up, I will definitely apologize to him. I really didn't do it on purpose. Qing Yuan really fainted. Originally, I was still fine. I just wanted them to save me and drive away from here. In the end, I am really not far away from death. After Qingye's unremitting efforts, Qing Yuan suddenly woke up and took a deep breath. Coincidentally, Qingye splashed water on him. I'm finished, I choked. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. Qingye was about to cry from anxiousness, Why did I vomit blood again? Qing Yuan opened his eyes, as if he was saying, don't torture me anymore. Let me go, we can pretend that we never saw each other. Just that, in Qingya's eyes, this kind of expression completely became a signal for help. Don't worry this time, I guarantee that I will step on the right place. Yihua slowly turned around. This is too cruel. Cough 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 whoa. Qing Yuan was in despair. He wanted to struggle to get up and leave, but he was held down by Qingya. You can't leave now, you will die. K. If I don't leave now, I will die later on, you murderer. Qingya immediately raised her leg, and this time, she did not close her eyes. Aiming at the position, she kicked down. Puffed. A stream of blood sprayed out from Qing Yuan's mouth, and his entire body went limp, and his expression was no longer that painful. Qingya, you saved his life, Yihua said with his hands behind his back. Qingya let out a breath. What should we do next? Chapter 94. At this moment, two men in green robes ran out of the forest and saw Qing Yuan lying on the ground. Qing Yuan, on the other hand, seemed to have seen a life-saving straw, and with strength that came from who knows where, Qing Yuan crawled forward with all his might. Save me, quickly bring me away. The two disciples of the Cloud sect were dumbfounded. Just a moment ago, this fellow was running with his life on the line. How did he become so withered in just a few minutes? It was as if he had masturbated dozens of tubes. Qingya said apologetically, just now, I was saving him, and accidentally stepped on the wrong spot. This was the first time that Cloud sect's disciples heard that one has to step on someone to save someone, and they were a bit stupefied. But no matter what, they had found them. One of the men cupped his hands and said, thank you both. Farewell. Qingya also cupped her hands. About that, take care. Qing Yuan shed tears of remorse. He no longer believed in TikTok, who said that a good-looking person would have a beautiful heart. If God gave him another chance, he would definitely not ask them for help, even if he had to die. Yihua, I really didn't do it on purpose. Qingya apologized. Yihua took out a tissue and wiped off the sweat on Qingya's forehead. All right, didn't you save her? But Don't worry, this is a medical accident, it wasn't done on purpose. After hearing Yihua's explanation, Qingya felt relieved. That's right, this is only a medical accident. In actuality, this kind of treatment was indeed effective, and it wasn't because of Yihua's ill will. Yihua just wanted to punish this man. To actually dare to lie to me. It is already good enough that I didn't kill this man. Cloud sect's disciples were currently carrying Qing Yuan back to the sect, and one of the disciples cried out in surprise, Senior brother, he is bleeding. Isn't bleeding normal? But the location of the bleeding is not normal. Qing Yuan no longer felt anything. When he lowered his head to take a look, he immediately fainted. That woman is so terrifying. At the lakeside, Qingya seemed to have walked out from the shadows, and was eating the star-cleansing sparrow meat that other people yearned for even in their dreams. Yehua, is this really dragon meat? It will be fine if you just eat it. It is good for your skin. Yihua lit up a cigarette, and looked at the sky which was gradually becoming dark. Yihua, why do you treat me well sometimes? Qingya asked curiously. Yihua turned his head around and took a look at Qingya, as if he was saying, you idiot. How did you even think of such a question? If I don't treat you well, who should I treat well? No matter what, I am still the child's mother. Suddenly, Qingya felt that other than being beautiful and rich, she didn't have anything else. Sigh. This is so depressing. Looking at Yihua's high and mighty appearance, Qingya was in a bad mood, and decided to just ignore Yihua, and rest on the chair. What Yihua was currently thinking about was another matter. Tomorrow is the last day of the 3 days deadline. If Yihua doesn't return the money, then according to the previous rules, Yihua will have to pay back his life. To even dare to owe me money and not return it, Yihua's guts are not ordinary. No, today was different from the past. Exterminating an entire sect was too vicious. Change it. This matter will be handed over to Wei Chong, or Lai Gu to handle tomorrow. I still have to teach Qingya a lesson. Look at her sleeping posture, my God, she is drooling again. Yihua, I want to spank your butt. In the dream, Qingya shouted loudly. Yihua shook his head, then carried Qingya and disappeared from the spot in an instant. When he reappeared, he had already arrived at the bedroom. After placing Qingya onto the bed, Yihua covered her with a blanket. Coming to the office, Yihua said gravely, Wei Chang, Lai Gu, come over. In an instant, Wei Chang and Lai Gu put down the things that they were doing and appeared in front of Yihua, then respectfully called out, Your Honor. Looking at Lai Gu, Yihua asked, Has your body adapted to it? Lai Gu said happily, It is all thanks to Your Honor that subordinate was able to create a body for subordinate. Subordinate was able to experience the joy of being a human. Actually, I still prefer you to transform into a dog. Yihua lit up a cigarette and said. Lai Gu expressed that he was very embarrassed, while the corner of Wei Chang's mouth arced up. Wei Chang, subordinate is here. What is the meaning between you and that waiter? Yihua asked. Wei Chang didn't dare to be careless and said gravely, Your Honor, subordinate is currently experiencing the feelings of humans. Feelings? This caused Yihua to be a little puzzled. What did you gain? Yihua asked. Wei Chang bowed his body and said, After spending these few days together, subordinate discovered that the feelings of humans are very strange. Yihua became interested and asked, How strange? When Xiao Tang is not around, subordinate will feel a bit uneasy, but when subordinate is together with Xiao Tang, subordinate will be able to calm down, that's about it. Wei Chang was also very vexed. He thought that he was poisoned. Yihua wrinkled his brows. Why is this symptom a bit similar to mine? Lai Gu, tell me about your feelings. Yihua asked. Lai Gu paused for a moment, and after thinking for a while he finally said, they are very awesome. Yihua. Wei Chang, if I were to ask you to go and kill that waiter right now, what would you do? Yihua's aura suddenly changed, and sharp killing intent emerged out from his body. A trace of hesitation appeared in Wei Chang's gaze, but very quickly, he changed his mind and knelt down on one knee. Subordinate will solemnly obey Your Honor's command. Yihua waved his hand. All right, don't make it so serious. Wei Chang, it is fine for you to get a girlfriend and experience human nature, but your real identity has to be hidden. If your little girlfriend finds out, you should know how to deal with it. Subordinate understands. Wei Chang lowered his head and replied, Lai Gu, you are the same. Subordinate obeys your command. Yihua lit up another cigarette and asked, Do you smoke? Wei Chang said, Subordinate doesn't smoke. Lai Gu, smoking is bad for the lungs. Wei Chang looked towards Lai Gu confusedly. You still have lungs? Is there any news about the other 5 sins? Yihua took a puff of the cigarette and exhaled out the smoke. Lai Gu changed his frivolous expression and said solemnly, Not at the moment. Your Honor, it has already been 5 years. The other 5 sins have not been found yet. I am afraid that something unexpected has happened. Wei Chang's tone was filled with killing intent. Towards traitors, there was no need to give any face, even if the traitor was a former comrade. Yihua let out a breath. Each of you 7 sins have your own unique points. If they were to join hands, the 2 of you would not be their match, but you are still able to fight them one-on-one. Wei Chang and Lai Gu remained silent. The other 5 sins were powerful. Not only were they powerful, their personalities were also twisted. How could Yihua and his 2 subordinates not have twisted personalities as well? It was just that after learning for 5 years, their personalities became slightly better. However, who knows what the other 5 sins are doing? Perhaps they are still maintaining their original character. Yihua extinguished the cigarette butt, and a trace of red light flashed past his pitch-black pupils. My 7 subordinates are just like my 7 children. If the other 5 sins were to really betray me, should I kill them or not? Furthermore, the strength of the other 5 sins is not to be underestimated. Let's put this problem aside first. We will deal with it in the future. Let's deal with that Xiao family that owes money and doesn't return it first. Yihua sat on the boss's chair and said calmly. Chapter 95. Lai Gu let out a sigh of relief. This kind of small matter is what Wei Chang likes to do the most. It is still more comfortable for me to lie on the bed. Lai Gu, how do you think we should deal with this matter? Yihua asked. The latter paused and swallowed his saliva. His honor is here to test me again. I cannot be careless. Your honor, just a mere human dares to not pay back the money he owes, of course. He has to pay back the money with his life. Kill them all. Lai Gu was still the same as before, killing all the people he meets. Wei Chong, how do you think we should deal with this matter? Wei Chong pursed his dry lips. According to the usual routine, I will definitely kill all the people I meet. I can give up the money, but I cannot lose my face. However, his honor will definitely not follow the usual routine, just like that Long Outian. Your honor, those who owe money and don't pay back are the most evil. I suggest that we kill the person closest to them. Yihua was somewhat attracted by Wei Chang's suggestion. This is a bit interesting. Tell me about it. Subordinate thinks that what humans fear the most is losing their loved ones. In the past, when we were fighting all over the world, we also saw it, but we didn't understand it. However, after 5 years of understanding, other than money, what humans care about is their family. Lai Gu took a look at Wei Chong. Where did this gluttonous freak find this fallacious reasoning from? Lai Gu, look at Wei Chong. When can you be as sensible as Wei Chong? Yihua was gratified. I finally made Wei Chang's IQ online. Subordinate is incompetent. I will definitely properly learn about human nature in the future. Lai Gu thought in his heart, learning about human nature on the bed. Yihua continued to ask, Wei Chong, who do you think Xiao Yi cares about the most? Here comes another problem. Wei Chong thought to himself, if it's me, other than his honor, it would be Xiao Tang. That's right. It's a woman. Subordinate thinks that the person Xiao Yi cares about the most is definitely his woman. Yihua felt that what Wei Chong said was reasonable. Nothing in life is more important than losing one's true love. Yihua went into a daze. What am I thinking about? True love. Wei Chong, you handle this matter as you see fit. Take the money, kill the person too. I will obey your honor's command. Let's do it tomorrow night at 12 o'clock. If he returns the money, then forget it. Yihua added. Wei Chong and Lai Gu went into a daze, then knelt on the ground and shouted, Congratulations, your honor. What joy. These two fellows had learned the human's flattery skills the most. Lai Gu sighed with emotion. His honor is clearly able to use his martial power. Yet he just had to use his brain. As a subordinate, I am truly unable to catch up to him. What Lai Gu said is right. If it was in the past, his honor would have long since ordered us to kill him. But today, his honor actually said to spare his life. From this, it can be seen that his honor's control over human nature has already reached the pinnacle. Subordinate is blushing with shame. Wei Chong was so excited that he even sprayed out his saliva. And that expression on his face didn't seem to be bootlicking. Lai Gu, who was at the side, was stupefied. This gluttonous monster's performance is pretty good. You all. Yihua laughed helplessly. Compared to the past, the current atmosphere was much warmer. Dong dong dong. Yihua, are you inside? Qingya's voice rang out. You guys go ahead. Wei Chong and Lai Gu bowed and left, then disappeared from the office. Just at this moment, Qingya pushed open the door and walked in. When did we come back? Not too long ago. Yihua opened the window and let the smoke disperse a bit. Although it was just a small action, Qingya's heart still felt warm. Yihua, let's go out to eat, watch a movie, and take a walk. All right. Yihua let out a breath. The human emotions that Wei Chong spoke of, are they really that mysterious? Could it be that I, the Supreme Overlord, already care about this woman? This is truly inconceivable. Emotions are the most mysterious thing in the human mind. Even a strong person like Yihua is about to fall into such a state. It is truly not easy. However, this kind of emotion was still continuously warming up. This was something that the two people didn't expect. Yihua admired Qingya's courage to be angry and speak out, and Qingya liked Yihua's concern. Although Qingya has a bad temper sometimes, overall, Qingya is still considered to be good. The morning sunlight was always so gentle. Without his sister-in-law at home, there seemed to be a bit less joy, but at the same time, it was also a lot quieter. Wake up, Inging monster. To be honest, Yihua rather liked Qinya, who was acting coquettishly, caressing onto Qinya's smooth long hair. Yihua thought to himself, these days are pretty good. It is a bit better than the lonely days I had in the past. Seeing that Qinya was lazing around on the bed and not getting up, Yihua could only take forceful measures and directly carried Qinya to the washroom. Qinya naturally didn't want to comply, and the sound of quarreling immediately rang out. Qinya, who lost the quarrel, pouted and went out to buy breakfast, while Yihua went to his sister-in-law's bedroom, turned on the computer, and prepared to play games. I still have to practice my skills. No matter what, I have to bring my wife and sister-in-law to eat chicken and not listen to the two of them complain. And after Qinya came back, she saw that Yihua was secretly playing games, so of course, she had to join in. In the end, the two of them had to play as a pair, and both of their lunch and dinner were takeaway. Yihua had led my wife astray. Yihua, play one more round, I want to eat chicken. Qinya pulled onto Yihua's sleeve and begged pitifully. Yihua pointed towards the clock. Look at what time it is. It is already 11:30 a.m. Don't you want to sleep anymore? Please play one more round. You have been saying that you will play one more round since 10 a.m. You are already a person who is going to be a mother. Really, this is definitely the last round. After playing, let's go to sleep. Qinya opened her big watery eyes and even learned from her little sister to act cute, simply refreshing Yihua's understanding of her. This was also under the situation where Qin Yutong was not present. If she was present, Qinya would definitely have the appearance of a big sister. This way, she would appear to have a deterrent force, and in the end, Qinya was slowly accepting Yihua. Yihua let out a breath. One more round. Thank you, hubby moi. Kiss my face full of saliva. TSK. This beauty here kissed you and you still dislike it. You can play by yourself. Don't, hubby. I know my mistake. Only a capable man can bring his wife to eat chicken. And Yihua actually forgot about the proper business. Luckily, Wei Chang still remembered. Wei Chang, who was currently on the first floor, looked at the clock. It is almost midnight. I still have to collect what I should collect. Walking to the toilet, he closed the door and called out, Death Mage. Within a villa in Longan City, Death Mage was currently drinking beer and watching the match between Germany and South Korea. Isn't it obvious that Germany is going to win? Death Mage decided to gamble one more time, betting on Germany to win. Just when the match had just started, he received a summon from his master. This was the hardest time to make a decision in one's life. Death Mage chose his master. But where did his scythe go finally? Death Mage found his scythe at a corner of the kitchen. Dust had already gathered on it. I have to wipe it. I can't let my master find out that I am slacking off. According to my master's orders, I am currently guarding that Long Outian. Chapter 96. Master. Death Mage respectfully lied on the ground and shouted out, hoping that his master would quickly give the order. I still have to go back and watch the match. Wei Chang wrinkled his brows, however. He did not ask too much about it. There is a Xiao family in Zijin City, and the family head, Xiao Yi, owes his honor 50 billion. Go and get the money back. Other than that, kill his most important woman. Do as you see fit. A mere trash dares to owe his honor money, and even caused master to be so vexed. How can killing a single person be enough to appease his honor's anger? I would like to be so bold as to request to kill his entire family. The corner of Wei Chang's mouth twitched. Wasn't this line used by him in the past? It seemed like he really wasn't as bloody as he was in the past. How can you change his honor's orders as you wish? Wei Chang shouted out lightly. What an unruly fellow. This subordinate deserves to die. As soon as it's midnight, you can make your move. Death Mage did not dare to ask too much about it. Why did they have to wait until midnight before taking action? This is truly strange. The opponent's strength is not bad. Wei Chang warned before opening the door. Master, don't worry. Subordinate will definitely get back his honor's 50 billion and a life. Go. Yes. When Wei Chang walked out of the toilet, he just happened to see Tang Wei walking over. Uncle Wei, Tang Wei called out sweetly as a blush appeared on her cheeks. Xiao Tang, when we close the door, Uncle Wei will treat you to supper, Wei Chong said with a smile. Yihua thought that Wei Chong would personally take action. But who knew that Wei Chong had a date at night, and thus called his subordinate over. In actuality, his subordinate was still going to watch the football match at night. If it wasn't for Wei Chong saying that the opponent wasn't weak, Death Mage would definitely have sent his subordinate over. The Zijin city's Xiao family was located in the northern suburbs. This was a manor that occupied an extremely large area. To be precise, it was not a manor but a mansion. Just like the residence of the prince in the past, it was all Chinese-style buildings, with small bridges and flowing water. The environment was elegant, and it was the enjoyment of an emperor. In the east courtyard of the Xiao family, Xiao Yi was lying on a big bed with two beautiful wives beside him. One of them was Nangong Sini, and the other was Yuqi. She was the most beautiful girl in the school, but she was taken away by Xiao Yi. But that was 10 years ago. Although it had been 10 years, Xiao Yi's wives were still the same as before, showing no signs of aging. This was all thanks to Xiao Yi himself. Big brother Xiao, you're finally willing to accompany me today. Yu Qi stretched out her index finger and drew circles on Xiao Yi's firm chest. Nangong Sini laughed softly. Brother Xiao, little sister Yu is hungry and thirsty. You have to feed her until she's full tonight. Sister Sini, why do you have to tease me every time? Nangong Sini lifted Yuqi's chin and said, Because I like you. I hate you, Xiao Yi chuckled. He was also watching the match, but his thoughts were restless. He felt that something big was going to happen tonight, and it had been a long time since he had such a feeling. Brother Xiao, what's wrong? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Why don't I ask Sister Shu Nan to take a look at you? Xiao Yi shook his head. There's no need. Besides, I was the one who taught Shu Nan his medical skills. I know my body well. Brother Xiao, why don't you rest early? You still have to take Yin'er to sign up for the children's soccer team tomorrow. The little guy is very excited today. Sister Sini coaxed him for a long time before he fell asleep, Yu Qi said softly. She then rubbed her belly and smiled happily. Oh, is Yin'er that excited? Xiao Yi laughed. Although he had many wives, it was very difficult for them to get pregnant. Until now, he had only given birth to one son, Xiao Yin. Of course, Yu Qi was also pregnant. It was already 3 months, and it was a girl. She couldn't bear it for 3 months, and tonight, she had to do something. Nangong Sini said with a smile. Isn't that so? Recently, the little guy has been saying that he wants to enter the national team and play in the World Cup to win glory for our country. Not bad. He already knows how to win glory at such a young age. Xiao Yi was very happy and looked forward to the arrival of his daughter. After a pause, Xiao Yi said, Sini, I will start my seclusion tomorrow. I have a feeling that something big is going to happen. Okay, don't worry and go into seclusion. I will look after the company, Nangong Sini said. Sister Sini, I also want to go to the company to help you, Yu Qi said pitifully. You just stay at home and wait for the delivery. Otherwise, someone will say that I mistreat the pregnant woman again. Nangong Sini poked her husband's arm. Hubby, let's go to sleep. It is already 11:50 p.m. Yu Qi lightly bit onto her lips, expressing that she was feeling very uncomfortable. Xiao Yi laughed. Let's watch for another 10 minutes. If Germany doesn't score a goal, we will go to sleep and feed you properly. Annoying, Nangong Sini laughed helplessly. Today you guys are the home team. I am here to cheer for you guys. Sini, don't even think about running away. Give birth to another one for me, Xiao Yi said straightforwardly. Don't, the other sisters are going to be jealous of me to death. Haha. Xiao Yi's arrogant laughter immediately rang out in the room. This is the peak of life, hugging onto one's left and one's right. And it's still joyful and harmonious. At this moment, outside of Xiao Residence's wall, Death Mage was leaning on the wall while hugging onto his sickle of death. His 5 hand bones were holding onto his phone, and the phone was still lying horizontally. The commentator's passionate voice was currently ringing out from the phone. 100 meters away from Death Mage, there were a few scouts that were holding onto night vision goggles and looking at the situation. Quickly look at the wall, there is an idiot. Quickly let me take a look, damn it. Seriously, not only did he not sleep in the middle of the night, he actually came to Xiao residence to cosplay. And he even dressed up as a Grim Reaper. Awesome. He seems to be watching the World Cup. Did you place a bet on the match between Germany and South Korea tonight? Of course. Germany is the defending champion. I even used the money that I used to buy a house to bet that Germany will win. Me too if Germany wins. I will become a young model at the club. If Germany loses, I will become a slave. Haha, you know me best, my brother. However, we have already waited for a few days, and we still haven't seen a single ghost. That's right, there are only damned mosquitoes. Death Mage naturally knew that there were a few groups of humans in the surroundings, but he was not interested in caring about them. Right now, what he was concerned about was the match. Germany team, quickly score a goal. There are still 8 minutes before I have to start working. If I were to lose tonight, all of them will be castrated. Motherf asterisk Kerr. This family is truly tired of living. To actually dare to even owe his honor money, causing me to not be able to watch the match in the middle of the night. It is a pity that his honor asked me to only kill one person. What kind of great luck did they have? Looking at the time on the phone, Germany team still did not score a goal. Death Mage let out a breath of relief. After I teach them a lesson, I will cheat, I swear. Next time, I will definitely not cheat. After keeping away his phone, Death Mage raised up his scythe and walked towards the front door step by step. Going through the back door? That is impossible. It is impossible in this lifetime. Who is it? Of course, Xiao family had their own security measures. When Xiao family saw a person that was wearing a black robe and holding onto a scythe that was even taller than a person, and that scythe's blade was shining with a silver light under the moonlight, Xiao family's appearance had already explained everything. Chapter 97. It was just that the Xiao clan's security did not expect that there would be someone who dared to come here alone. This aura was not bad, and they did not know where that prop came from. GGG. Death Mage naturally wouldn't be able to speak, and only Wei Chong was able to understand what Death Mage was saying. Imperial translation. They're here to collect their debt. Where did this lunatic come from? Get lost. Otherwise we'll beat you up. One of the security guards took out an electric baton and poked it in his palm. GGG. Imperial translation. If it wasn't for his honor's request to only kill one person, the two of you would have long turned into dust on the ground. Yo, I'm giving you face but you don't want it. What the hell are you laughing at? See if I don't beat you to death. 2 rays of black light shot out from Death Mage's hand, and the security guards who were still acting arrogantly just a moment ago were instantly unable to move. They were unable to even shout out, and only their eyes were filled with shock and fear. The jaws of the spy squatting outside almost dropped to the ground. Damn it! They weren't here to be funny, they were here to cause trouble. Hurry, hurry, hurry! Quick, report the situation here. Very quickly, the situation at this side fell into the ears of the various big clans. The sky above Zijin City was suddenly covered by a layer of dark clouds, and it was filled with oppression. Death Mage walked past the two of them, and with a push of his arms, the front door of the Xiao family was easily pushed open. When the security guards inside saw that the front door was pushed open by a stranger who was dressed like a Grim Reaper, without saying anything, they immediately took out their guns and opened fire. Bang, bang, bang. The gunshot was so ear-piercing in the quiet night. Xiao Yi had just turned off the lights, and Yu Qi's underwear was already down to her knees. Suddenly there was a gunshot. How many years has it been? When did so many gunshots come from the Xiao family? The two wives were also shocked. Nangong Sini immediately turned on the lights. Brother Xiao. Xiao Yi put on his pajamas and frowned. Don't come out, I'll go take a look. Be careful, the two girls warned. They were wondering who had come to the Xiao clan. How audacious of him. However, the gunshots outside became less and less. Soon it became quiet. The two women looked at each other and relaxed. It seemed that Xiao Yi had been taken care of. Let's go out and take a look, Nangong Sini said. Yes. Yu Qi put on her pajamas and followed beside Nangong Sini. When she went out, she saw 4 beautiful women walking over. It seems like they are all Xiao Yi's wives. His luck with women is really not shallow. The 6 wives slowly came to the front yard, and the strange scene made them suck in a breath of cold air. All the security guards seemed to be frozen, motionless, and their eyeballs could move, but all of them revealed a look of fear. In the middle stood a man in a black robe, holding an enormous scythe. Because he was covered by the black robe, his face could not be seen clearly. His husband was standing 10 meters away from him. There was a stone bridge between them, and the sound of flowing water was particularly dull. Xiao Yi's expression was heavy. This person's ability was probably on par with his. Where did such a person come from? Why didn't he know anything about it? Moreover, what was he doing here? What enmity did he have with him? May I ask why you have come to visit so late at night? Xiao Yi shouted in a deep voice. His aura continued to rise. Even if he lost, he didn't want to lose. He. Death Mage let out a strange sound again, and the 6 beauties couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. I'm afraid it isn't appropriate for you to tease me like this. Xiao Yi was a man with a temper. Furthermore, he was an immortal emperor in his previous life, and he was revered by thousands of people. Although he hadn't fully recovered his cultivation, he still had his dignity. Death Mage suddenly waved the scythe in his hand. Xiao Yi thought that Death Mage was going to attack him, and a green long sword condensed in his hand. This sword was called the Broken Emperor Sword, and it was personally forged by Xiao Yi. The body of the sword was green, and there were all kinds of runes on it. When activated by his cultivation, it would emit a dazzling light, and it was the Act-Tough King Xiao Yi's most proficient weapon. However, when he saw that Death Mage wasn't going to attack him, but was instead taking out his phone, his expression became even uglier, especially when he was so scared that he took out his weapon. Suddenly, the voice of the commentator of the World Cup rang out from Death Mage's phone. I was watching it too. Could it be that he was watching the match between Germany and South Korea? Why would such a strong person do such a weird thing? That's right. Death Mage was squatting in a corner watching the World Cup, and the face scan unlock was still on that screen. Death Mage took a glance at the screen. Damn it, it's still 0-0. I better get down to business first. Stretching out the hand bone, Death Mage was drawing on the phone's screen, not knowing what he was doing. Meanwhile, Xiao Yi was able to see that hand bone. This isn't a human. However, the 6 wives who were far away were not able to see anything clearly. When Death Mage took out the phone screen, the words on the screen were very big, and they were even scrolling across the screen. There weren't many words, but it caused Xiao Yi to be incomparably shocked, and even the 6 wives were dumbfounded. 2 words could be seen scrolling across the phone's screen. Return the money. There were even 3 exclamation marks, indicating that Death Mage was very angry. Xiao Yi tightly held onto the Broken Emperor sword in his hand. I am here to trample on the debt. When have I ever owed someone money? What a joke. Not right. That night 3 days ago, that man. Could it be that that man told me to come here to trample on the debt? Calculating the time that Qing Yutong called me, today just happens to be the 3rd day. Just like that, it's already a match. 50 billion. What that prodigal earned was all cash. And where would I find 50 billion in cash? It is possible to gather the money, but if the capital chain is broken, the company will definitely be suppressed by others. This was also why I wanted to deny the 50 billion. If it was 5 billion, it would still be fine. Nangong Sini also thought so. But she didn't expect that the person who denied the money would come to trample on the debt. And this person even made her husband vigilant. Sisters, let's go in. Don't disturb Brother Xiao. Nangong Sini said tenderly. Towards her husband, she trusted him a lot. It could be said that her husband had never been defeated before. The women had also seen such a scene before. Although they were worried, they didn't want to distract their husband. All of them returned to the backyard and waited for their husband's triumphant return. Xiao Yi's gaze was deep, and at the same time, the desire that he had been immersed in for a long time was ignited. Being unrivaled is lonely. It has been a long time since I was this excited. Right now it is hard to find an opponent. It is either that the opponent has some misgivings, or the opponent doesn't dare to. In any case, there are all sorts of reasons. And this person in front of me wrong. He is not a human. No matter what he came here for today, this battle must definitely be fought. And it must be won. If not, Xiao family will become a laughingstock in the entire north. This is something that is absolutely not allowed to happen. I reckon that right now, there are already a lot of eyes staring at us. Xiaoyi took a deep breath. Let's fight at another place. Death Mage waved his left hand, indicating that he didn't mind. Such a disdainful action caused Xiaoyi to sneer. You don't even know who is standing in front of you. Do you think that I, the Emperor, will be afraid of you? Chapter 98. The two of them instantly disappeared from the Xiao mansion. When they appeared again, they were already in the mountains several kilometers away. This place was desolate and uninhabited, and it was extremely suitable for a fierce battle. Just like what Xiaoyi had expected, all of the leaders of the powerful families in Zijin City knew about what had happened to the Xiao family. At first, he thought that it was just a joke, but he didn't expect that the other party was actually serious. At the other side of the northern suburb of Zijin City, there was a manor that was very modernized. And under the surface of this modernized manor, various kinds of mechanisms were concealed, and all of them were personally designed by Tang Wushuang. That's right. This was Tang Wushuang's home. At this moment, Tang Wushuang had also received the news from his subordinate, and he seemed to be very surprised. There's really someone who dares to provoke Xiao Clan. Was that man inflated? Or ignorance? Bam! Bang! I won. Tang Wushuang let out a heavy sigh. He had married over 10 wives, and only after he married them did he realize that all of them were gambling experts. Even his gold desert eagle was used as a gambling cushion. Standing up, Tang Wushuang placed his hands behind his back and let out a long sigh. Why are all the people with the surname Tang so miserable? Could it be that I am the reincarnation of Tang Bohu? Wushuang, Quan Anrong walked over with a smile. Tang Wushuang was gratified. Finally, there was someone who was obedient. Enrong you. Wushuang, I'm out of money. Give me a few million first. Tang Wushuang's entire body froze. Wushuang, I'm just joking. Tang Wushuang couldn't help but rub his wife's nose. Little mischievous, I'm afraid a few million is not enough. How about 10 million? Tang Wushuang requested for a close-up shot of the scene where Tang Wushuang spurted out blood. Alright, I won't joke around anymore. Did something happen on Brother Zhao's side? Quan Anrong pinched her husband's face and smiled. What a fool. Tang Wushuang smiled helplessly. And there's news. If I didn't guess wrongly, they should be here to collect the debt. Wushuang, Brother Xiao is so powerful. He should be able to settle this easily. Enrong, do you mean that you don't want me to get involved in this matter? Tang Wushuang wrinkled his brows. He didn't understand the profound meaning behind Enrong's words. Quan Anrong held onto Tang Wushuang's arm and walked out of the chess room. Then they arrived at the garden outside. Firstly, Brother Zhao's strength is very powerful. And even if you were to go, you wouldn't be able to do anything. We won't do something like adding flowers to brocade. And if we are going to do something, we will have to do something like sending charcoal in snowy weather. Timely help. Tang Wushuang's brows became very deep. Brother Zhao's reputation in the circle is very big, even surpassing yours. Wushuang, although you don't say it, I can see that you still care about it. Quan Anrong looked at her husband's expression and continued. Tonight, if Brother Xiao is safe and sound, we will pretend that we didn't say anything. If anything happens to Brother Xiao, Wushuang, this is your chance. But Tang Wushuang fell into a multiple-choice question, and it was very hard for him to make a decision. Wushuang, if Brother Xiao really falls tonight, you really have to prepare for a rainy day. Zijin City will undergo another big reshuffle. All the big families, hidden families, sects, the world of cultivators, the world of special abilities, and those who live under the wings of the Xiao family will have to make new choices. But I don't want to betray Brother Xiao. After all, he saved my life. Quan Anrong sighed. How could she not know? But to help her man reach the top, she would have to sacrifice a lot. Wushuang, I'm not asking you to betray Brother Xiao. You just need to be a good person. In an instant, Tang Wushuang understood what his wife meant. If Brother Xiao were to be defeated tonight, then the entire Xiao family would be without a leader. And with the identity of Xiao Yi's brother, he would be able to support the Xiao family once again. Not only that, he would be able to obtain benefits from this, and furthermore, he wouldn't lose his reputation, and other people would even praise him for being loyal. Wushuang, don't think too much. Brother Xiao is very powerful. There are countless people who want to take him down, but none of them succeeded. It's very difficult for the thing we're talking about to happen. If it happens, it'll be your chance. Of course, you don't have to choose this path. After all, it's just a suggestion. Quan Anrong kissed her husband's cheek and walked into the house, but suddenly stopped, as if she had thought of something. Wushuang, you still have a master. Xiao Yi doesn't have this. Tang Wushuang's body trembled. Master? How could he not know that this was a rare opportunity to swallow up the Xiao family? Then the whole Tang family would be flipped upside down. At that time, the Bai family would be nothing, and there would still be those aristocratic families eyeing them covetously. But the prerequisite was that Xiao Yi had to die. The probability of that was even lower than winning the lottery. And in the western suburb of Zijin City, there was a castle. Looking at it from afar, it looked very much like the vampire castle that was shown in the movies. Furthermore, if one wanted to enter the castle, one had to pass through a drawbridge. This was the place where the Bai family lived. And the woman who lived here was Bai Cixin, who was known as the Beauty of the North. In the living room of the castle, 2 men and a woman were sitting on a sofa that was as red as blood. The woman was Bai Cixin. Just like her name, her skin was extremely white, and even the clothes she was wearing were white as well. On her head, there was a white scarf, which added a sense of mystery to her. On her delicate hands, she was wearing a pair of white gloves, and she was sitting on the main sofa, and the 2 men were sitting on both sides of her. There was no need to talk about the status of the family. Right now, she was holding onto a teacup, and with her bright red lips, she was tasting the newly grown Maojian tea. Debao, don't buy this kind of tea anymore in the future. You know that I'm used to Dahongpo tea. Bai Cixin lightly placed down the teacup. She didn't care about how much this tea was worth at all. In Bai Cixin's heart, there was only good and bad tea. Wang Debao laughed embarrassedly. Wife, recently, Dahongpo tea is in short supply. If you want to drink it, you will have to wait for a while. Look for the person who is hoarding the goods. Bai Cixin said faintly, killing intent surfaced in her tone. Wang Debao liked his wife's aloof look, because at night, he would be aloof. Wife, you have the final say. Bai Qi, who was sitting at the side, was very melancholic. He didn't care whether it was Maojian tea or Dahongpo tea. In any case, it was bitter. Big sister, how are we going to deal with Long and City? Bai Cixin said lightly. They are just some insignificant small figures. During this period of time, don't go to the south. Understood, big sister. Bai Qi paused for a moment, then asked curiously. Big sister, we just gave away that 50 billion? Is that true? Bai Qi still didn't understand his own big sister. On the surface, his big sister looked gentle and pleasant, but in the dark, she was actually a female devil. This time, brother-in-law lost 50 billion, and when it was time for him to return the money, he would definitely ask big sister, and big sister actually agreed to it. In actuality, Wang Debao was also curious. He felt that his wife's intention was rather deep, but he didn't dare to ask about it. If he were to ask about it, it would make him seem like an idiot, as if he didn't even understand what was going on. It just so happened that his brother-in-law asked about it, and everything went so smoothly. Debao, what do you think? Bai Cixin suddenly asked her husband. Chapter 99. Wang Debao's fingers subconsciously started trembling, and both of his legs were trembling. Why did she suddenly ask me this question? She's not playing by the rules. How can us men understand the wife's farsightedness? The wife's thoughts are as fine as a needle and meticulous. How can a husband dare to guess the wife's intentions blindly? In any case, everything that the wife says is right. Even if she is wrong, she is still right. Wang Debao felt that he had never felt so refreshed before. His bootlicking was done in one go, and there was no pause in the middle. Bai Qi couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Brother-in-law's desire to live actually made his choice of words a lot sharper. Awesome. Bai Cixin lightly tapped onto her husband's forehead and said indifferently, "When did I say that I will really give them the 50 billion? The use of the 50 billion will be tonight. Whether it is worth it or not will also be decided tonight. If it is not worth it, then we will take it back. Zijin City will not have a Qing family anymore. If it is worth it, then it couldn't be any better." The two men were stupefied. My dear wife is wise. Big sister is formidable. The two bootlickers. Perhaps the world might change tomorrow. Xiao family and Tang family seem to be in an alliance, but who would be willing to lower their head to the other? This is truly becoming more and more interesting. Bai Cixin shook her head, then rubbed her thumb and index finger together. Let's wait for the result tomorrow morning. Bai Qi, you should sleep early. Hubby, let's go back to our room. Okay, Wang Debao said happily. There is nothing more pleasurable than being able to press down on my wife. Looking at big sister and brother-in-law leaving, Bai Qi couldn't understand. Why does big sister like Wang Debao? This is truly depressing. However, not only Tang family and Bai family were discussing. Right now, many big figures had woken up from their dreams and were waiting for the result so that they could prepare for their next move. The debt collection this time around was not only a matter of money, it was also related to the interests of a lot of people. Among them, there was more than 50 billion, and Yi Hua's carelessness caused ripples to appear on the surface of the calm lake. The ripples were gradually forming into ocean waves. The temperature in the mountains was a bit low, but the killing intent that was being emitted out from Xiao Yi's body caused the temperature to drop once again. The tense atmosphere continued to condense, and a wave of killing intent spread out in all directions. Although the broken emperor sword in Xiao Yi's hand was not unsheathed, there was a sharp and fierce sword qi that was pressing towards Death Mage. Although Xiao Yi was only wearing a nightgown, Xiao Yi was like a king. As long as he waved the broken emperor sword in his hand, heads would roll and blood would float around. However, this kind of aura was completely useless against Death Mage. However, Death Mage was a ranged fighter, while Xiao Yi was a melee fighter. It was clear that Death Mage was at a disadvantage. Adding on the fact that Xiao Yi was not an ordinary person, he had a lot of battle experience. It was very easy for him to find the opponent's weak point and deal a fatal blow. However, the Death Mage was not just for show. Although the Death Mage had developed a bad habit of betting on football matches, its battle prowess was not to be underestimated. Wei Chang had even said before that the number of experts that had died in the hands of the Death Mage were innumerable, because they had all committed the same mistake, and that was underestimating their enemies. But this time, Death Mage's opponent was an immortal emperor. Although he hadn't reached the peak, it was enough to make him suffer. Furthermore, this time, it wasn't that others were underestimating their enemy. It was Death Mage who had started to underestimate his enemy. Because Death Mage felt that there was no one powerful enough on this planet, even if it was the person in front of him. I don't care if you're here for your debt or your life. Today, you will become a dead soul under my sword. Xiao Yi was not an ordinary person, and he wouldn't wait for his opponent to make the first move. A bright light burst out from Xiao Yi's eyes, and in the blink of an eye, a sword light flew towards Death Mage. Like a ghost, the sword light flew straight towards Death Mage's forehead. When experts were fighting, they definitely wouldn't use their strength at the start. Instead, they would use probing attacks just like what Xiao Yi was doing. Don't look down on Xiao Yi. If it was Tang Wushuang, he would have to deal with Xiao Yi properly. Although Death Mage looked down on Xiao Yi, he didn't dare to easily receive Xiao Yi's sword attack. What Master said is indeed correct. This man's strength is indeed formidable. No matter if it is his strength or his speed, this man has already seen through the next sword attack. Xiao Yi's gaze became serious. As expected, this man is an expert. Xiao Yi gave up on stabbing towards Death Mage in front of him, and instead, turned around and slashed towards Death Mage. Emperor Broken Sword immediately blossomed with a dazzling light, forming a sword qi that slashed towards the air. The air in front of Xiao Yi immediately flared up, and the trees in front of Xiao Yi were all sliced into two. Death Mage, who was behind Xiao Yi, gradually disappeared and reappeared not far away from Xiao Yi. His body had already been sliced into two by the sword qi. Actually, in that instant, Xiao Yi felt that there was something wrong with the Death Mage in front of him, so he decisively swung his sword at Death Mage. Looking at the Death Mage who was sliced into two, Xiao Yi once again felt the loneliness of being invincible. This Death Mage is already the most formidable opponent that I have met in these few years, and he actually almost tricked me. Luckily, I reacted fast enough, otherwise, I would have made a fool out of myself. This person is not that great, but tomorrow, it should be my turn to go and trample on the debt. This debt is much bigger than 50 billion. Qing family, you guys better prepare to receive my Xiao Yi's fury. Beep. Just when Xiao Yi started fantasizing about himself torturing the Qing family, a black lightning struck toward Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi didn't have enough time to dodge, so he used his sword to block the attack, and the runes on the hilt of the sword released a light shield. The black lightning instantly collided with the light shield. There was no bright light. The two of them disappeared at the same time, and it seemed like the light shield was cancelled out. Xiao Yi's expression was gloomy, and looking at the black figure who was not far away from him, he raised his arm and pointed his index finger at Xiao Yi. That disgusting sound came out from his mouth, as if he was laughing at Xiao Yi. However, Xiao Yi was indeed fooled. The one that Xiao Yi killed just now was only an illusion, and Xiao Yi's real body was nowhere to be found. Furthermore, a layer of the runes on the broken Emperor sword had also been used up. Immediately, Xiao Yi's nightgown fluttered even though there was no wind, and the aura that Xiao Yi was emitting was still continuously rising. Even the leaves on the ground were starting to float into the air. When Death Mage saw Xiao Yi who was in front of him, he became interested. Xiao Yi is the strongest human that I have seen in the past 5 years. Just that, the smell that Xiao Yi is emitting is very nauseating. Heaven Punishment Sword Art Brahma Heaven's Will. When had Xiao Yi ever been deceived like this before? Xiao Yi decided to take out his trump card and end the battle quickly. The broken Emperor sword seemed to have sensed its master's fury and soared into the sky. In this pitch-black night, the broken Emperor sword shone like a star. A terrifying power quickly gathered at the tip of the broken Emperor sword, and the sky immediately changed color, and a rumbling sound suddenly rang out, piercing through the entire world. Death Mage raised his head and looked at the sky, then fiercely stabbed the death scythe into the ground with his right hand. Boom! The rumbling sound caused Xiao Yi's expression to sink even further. My opponent's strength is actually this strong as well. That stab from the scythe just now caused the entire ground to shake. Death Mage stretched out 5 of his fingers, and black threads were coming out from all 5 of his fingers. GGG, Royal Translation. Cave of Darkness. Chapter 100. However, no matter what technique you use, no matter if you are a human or a ghost, you will still have to die under my sword. Xiao Yi shouted out lightly as his fingers quickly formed seals. Broken Emperor sword that was in the sky shot out a dazzling light, and that dazzling light brought along a terrifying power as it struck towards Death Mage, who was on the ground. Before the dazzling light even touched the ground, the powerful airwave that was emitted from the dazzling light already caused all of the trees to collapse, instantly raising the ground to the ground. From this, it could be seen just how powerful this move was. And under this terrifying power, there was also a huge sound wave attack. However, Death Mage seems to have no eardrums. Go and die, trash. No matter who it is, don't even think about acting cool in front of me, Xiao Yi. The people who acted cool in front of me have all been sent to hell. And you are no exception. Death Mage really didn't know how to speak. If it was possible, I would definitely have a verbal battle with Xiao Yi. You are still acting cool like this. I will beat you up. Looking at the terrifying dazzling light that was coming towards him, Death Mage controlled the Cave of Darkness and used it to block in front of him. Then, he secretly took out his phone and looked at the result of the match. The first half has ended. Germany and South Korea have yet to score a goal. I wonder who will score a goal first in the second half. I am truly looking forward to it. The sound that came out from the phone wasn't loud, but Xiaoyi heard it. Him. He still has the mood to watch the World Cup. He is ignoring me, ignoring my aura, ignoring my technique, and even more so, ignoring my ability to act cool. If that's the case, there are only two results today: either you die, or I die. Death Mage quickly kept his phone, then faced Xiaoyi's big move with a serious expression. After all, I have to respect others, I can't trample on others' dignity, and I can't sneakily watch the World Cup while others are using big moves. Go and die, Xiaoyi shouted out. Seems like he was really angered by Death Mage's actions. However, the dazzling light shot into the cave, and then, everything returned to normal. A cold wind blew onto Xiaoyi's nightgown, and also blew onto Death Mage's black robe. Right now, Xiaoyi's stupefaction should be accompanied by a sad eru. Only then would it be able to bring out the stupefaction in Xiaoyi's heart. This is impossible. Just who are you? Xiaoyi shouted out gravely. Gigi, Imperial Translation. Your dad. After Xiaoyi heard this, his face alternated between white and red. He was still teasing him. His eyes narrowed and his hands quickly formed seals. Congratulations, you've successfully angered this emperor. Heaven Punishment Sword Technique, Buddha's Fury 9 Lotus. The broken emperor sword, which was floating in the air, shone brightly, and the body of the sword trembled violently. Bang! One divided into two, and then more and more. In a split second, the 9 broken emperor swords floated above the Death Mage, locking onto the Death Mage from all directions. Furthermore, the 9 broken emperor swords were condensing a power that was even more frightening than before. When this power was formed, the entire space around the Death Mage was violently distorted. Just like Xiaoyi's handsome face, it was incomparably malevolent. Xiaoyi hadn't used this move in a long time. He felt that no one in this world could block it. When he was an immortal emperor, he used it, and the opponent disappeared without a trace. One could see how powerful this move was. However, his opponent this time was Death Mage, Wei Chang's valiant general. It stretched out its 10 bony fingers, and black fog appeared on its fingertips just like before. Imperial Translation. 9 dark acupoints. 9 mirror-like bottomless abysses appeared around Death Mage. Xiaoyi, who was not far away from Death Mage, was stupefied. Just a moment ago, the mirror that Death Mage summoned out swallowed my attack. And this time, I have to continuously shoot out 9 times. And to think that Death Mage summoned out 9 mirror-like things as well. Just what the hell is this? Why are they able to swallow my attack? However, this time, it is different. The might of every single one of the mirror-like things is much stronger than before. No matter how deep your black hole is, I have to pierce through it. As expected, 9 mirror-like light beams shot down from the sky, and the entire sky became as bright as day. The scene was rather spectacular. Even the few people who were floating in the sky a few miles away from Death Mage sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw this scene. As expected of the Xiao family's family master. But after the 9 mirror-like light beams shot down, the night was still night, the crickets were still chirping, and the people who were stupefied were still stupefied. Xiaoyi rubbed his eyes. After the 9 mirror-like light beams shot down from the sky, not even a fart was let out. How is this possible? Even the weakened version of Buddha's Fury 9 Lotus wouldn't have such an effect. Death Mage let out a strange laughter once again. Don't misunderstand, this is not a mockery. Well, that was a mockery. Death Mage suddenly opened up both of his arms, and a strange black mist suddenly blossomed out from his body. The black mist corroded the ground like a virus, causing Xiaoyi's face to turn pale with fright. The black mist was like a tentacle that was trying to attack him. Xiaoyi did not have the time to think and immediately dodged. Tentacles of Darkness. This was one of the Death Mage's ultimate spells. It had a very strong corrosive power and penetrative power. As long as one was entangled by it, they would suffer a fate worse than death. Moreover, this was a tentacle, and it was big, thick, and round. Xiaoyi had never seen such a technique before. He had clearly cut it off, but the tentacles immediately grew back. No matter how he dodged, There were always many tentacles blocking his way. As an immortal emperor, Xiao Yi was like a monkey running around. His sweat quickly soaked his robe. In a split second, Death Mage grabbed hold of Xiao Yi's weak point and controlled his tentacles to form a big fist and punched toward Xiao Yi. Bang! Xiao Yi's body flew out like a cannonball, breaking all the trees along the way. Boom! Xiao Yi fiercely crashed onto the side of a mountain, causing the entire mountain to sway, and all the birds and beasts on the ground to jump in fright. Death Mage picked up the scythe of death that was stabbed into the ground and slowly walked towards the place where Xiao Yi had fallen. Today's mission was not to kill him, but to kill his woman in front of him. I reckon that this kind of feeling will definitely be extremely pleasurable. How did Master think of such a move? More and more people gathered over. They did not enter the battlefield and chose to watch from a few miles away. Some of them were enemies, but for this kind of incomparable battle, they temporarily put aside their grudges. However, from the looks of it, Xiao Yi's opponents were not weak at all. Among these people, there was a man and a woman who were wearing light muslin, and with just a look, one could tell that they were cultivators. Senior Marshal Brother, Xiao family might be in trouble. We should go back and report this to the sect head. Junior Marshal Sister, the sect head had already come to an agreement with Bai family. There is no need to worry. Bai family, Senior Marshal Brother, Bai Cixin is not a good person. Cooperating with them Junior Marshal Sister, although Bai Cixin is vicious, we still need Bai family's resources. After this battle, we still have to make a trip to the south. South? Why are we going there? Of course, it is to bring treasures. Curiosity appeared in the Junior Marshal Sister's eyes. What kind of treasures would require them to take the risk to sneak into the south? Everyone was incomparably shocked. Originally, they thought that Xiao Yi would be able to win easily, but from the looks of it now, Xiao Yi's strength had increased by another level. Xiao Yi was completely suppressed by Xiao Yi, and they had never seen Xiao Yi being beaten to this state before. Seems like Zijin City is really going to change. However, as an immortal emperor, how could he not have a trump card? That would be looking down on immortal emperors too much. Right when Death Mage was slowly walking toward Xiao Yi, his body suddenly stopped, and he dodged to the side. However, he was still too slow. His left arm was neatly cut off and fell onto the ground. Right now, Xiao Yi was wearing a golden gown and silver armor, and his hand was holding onto a golden longsword. Although there was a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth, and his complexion was not very good, in the end, Xiao Yi was still forced to take out his trump card. When the experts who were watching from afar saw that golden longsword, they couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. Chapter 101. When the spectators in the distance saw the Xianyuan sword, they all gasped. A few years ago, there were rumors that the Xianyuan sword had appeared. Who would have thought that it would fall into Xiao Yi's hands? If it wasn't for the fact that he was so strong today, no one would have thought of this. This Xiao Yi really hit his strength deeply, and that armor he was wearing was definitely not ordinary. This trump card was simply a king's trump card. Looking at his opponent, he had lost an arm due to his carelessness. Other than the black robe and the sickle in his right hand, he had nothing else on him. The difference in equipment was too big. Not only would Xiao Yi not lose tonight, but he would also become famous. His reputation would be even higher than before, and the Xiao family's status would also rise because of this battle. Not to mention the other chain reactions. In actuality, the majority of the spectators hoped that Xiao Yi would lose. The current situation required a breakthrough, and tonight was a rare opportunity. Just that right now, at this moment, Xiao Yi was holding the Xianyuan sword. The sword was releasing a faint light, and with his golden robe and silver armor, he was like a god descending to the mortal world. Just standing there would cause people to feel fear. But Xiao Yi was shocked. That sneak attack just now could have killed the opponent, but the opponent had discovered it. It was just a broken arm, and from the looks of it, it didn't seem to be of much use. However, he had already taken out the Xianyuan sword and the mystic tortoise strange armor. One was shockingly powerful, while the other had explosive defense. He didn't believe that he couldn't kill this skeleton. I didn't think that I Xiao Yi couldn't be low-key anymore. After tonight, the Xiao family will definitely rise to glory once more. Although the plan has been brought forward, it is not a big deal. Let the world witness the true strength of this emperor. The skeleton in front of him was only a stepping stone for him to reach the pinnacle, nothing more. Death Mage turned his head around and took a look at the severed arm on the ground. He felt very surprised, but at the same time, he was also very excited. This human in front of him had finally aroused his desire to fight. He picked up his severed arm and placed it to the side. Then, he took off his black robe and carefully placed his precious phone on it. However, he still couldn't help but open it to take a look. It was still a score of 0. God damn it. Xiao Yi silently looked at Death Mage's actions. However, when he saw Death Mage turning on his phone again and hearing the commentator's voice, Xiao Yi felt like his lungs were going to explode from anger. This was a very serious battle. Could they keep their hearts on it? But looking at the skeleton, there was no heart at all. How could such a creature appear in this world? It was unimaginable. The spectators also felt a chill down their spines. They had seen skeletons before, but they were just small evil spirits that could be poked to death with a finger. However, the skeleton in front of them had refreshed their worldview. Could it be that it was a Bone King? A divine artifact like the Xianyuan sword could only cut off one of its arms. Unbelievable. With the death scythe in his hand, Death Mage walked towards Xiao Yi and stopped 10 meters away from him. GGG. Royal Translation. Since you're good at close combat, I'll play with you. The Death Mage was definitely a high-ranked magician, and his specialty would definitely be magic attacks. However, the Death Mage was a bit of a slouch. Actually, every magician had the heart of a warrior in their heart. Takik. Royal Translation. High-level power enhancement. Takik. Royal Translation. High-level speed boost. Takik. Royal Translation. High-level long-lasting support. Takik. Royal Translation. Top-notch defense enhancement. Xiao Yi stared blankly at the Death Mage who was crying out weirdly. However, every time the Death Mage cried out, a different light would appear on its body. After the light flashed for more than 10 times, Xiao Yi finally came back to his senses. This skeleton was very weird, but Xiao Yi also discovered that the Death Mage needed to chant when it was releasing magic. As long as the distance between the Death Mage and the Death Mage got closer, Xiao Yi would be able to gain the upper hand. As for the Death Mage's scythe, I reckon that the Death Mage's scythe is just a decoration. Right now, Xiao Yi's speed was a few times faster than before, and he immediately disappeared from where he was standing. A trace of red light flashed past Death Mage's hollow eyes as he raised the death scythe in his hand high up. Boom! A majestic black light soared into the sky and broke through the dark clouds above. The moonlight once again shone onto the ground, and under the moonlight, the death scythe blossomed with a silver light. This wasn't just a simple light. The entire death scythe changed from black to silver. The eyes of the spectators who were a few miles away almost popped out. What is going on? How can a skeleton be so awesome, to be able to pierce through the sky with just a slight movement? However, in the next second, everyone was so frightened that they retreated a few miles away. Death Mage could be seen raising the Death Mage's scythe and fiercely slashing it forward. The huge might of the scythe spread out in a fan shape. Boom, boom, boom. Immediately, a series of rumbling sounds rang out in the world, shaking everyone's heart. Wave after wave of air was like a surging giant beast, engulfing everything in front of it. Starting from beneath Death Mage's feet, everything in front of Death Mage's body disappeared. The mountain that was still there just a moment ago had already been evaporated. The might of the Death Mage's scythe was actually so terrifying. Everyone was so frightened that they retreated frantically to prevent themselves from getting injured. However, Xiao Yi's figure gradually appeared and stood steadily in the sky. The mystic tortoise armor blossomed with a bit of light, and the cloak on his back slowly fluttered. The spectators couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Such a powerful might, and he is actually not injured in the slightest. As expected, Xiao family's family head is formidable. However, No one saw that there was a trace of blood on Xiao Yi's face. Xiao Yi, who was standing in the sky, looked down at Death Mage, and the astonishment in his eyes was unable to be concealed. Just now, I wanted to engage in close combat with Death Mage, and I didn't expect that Death Mage would actually make such a move. This is simply terrifying to the extreme. Not only is this Death Mage capable of long-range combat, he is also capable of close combat. Just who the fuck is this Death Mage? Just when Xiao Yi was feeling furious, he suddenly felt a killing intent coming from above his head. Xiao Yi's gaze became serious, and the Xian Yuan sword in his hand immediately slashed towards the sky. Bang! The golden Xian Yuan sword and the silver-white death scythe collided head-on, and the resulting shockwave spread out in all directions. Trees were uprooted one after another, and even the people who were standing a few miles away could feel the scorching heat rushing towards their faces. This is a true expert. On the battlefield, Death Mage looked at his scythe, and a crack actually appeared on it after being slashed by Xiao Yi's weapon. What a good weapon! Xiao Yi also saw this, and he sneered. This emperor's weapon is Xian Yuan sword. How can it be blocked by a small scythe like yours? However, Xiao Yi forgot one thing. Just how powerful was Xian Yuan sword? It was only able to cause a crack on Xiao Yi's weapon, and that was enough to prove that Xiao Yi's weapon was not ordinary. Of course, Xiao Yi would be immensely pleased with himself. After all, he had subconsciously placed Xiao Yi on the same level as him, and when he was able to cause damage to Xiao Yi, he would definitely feel extremely pleased. Chapter 102. When it comes to close combat, Xiao Yi was indeed a veteran. Death Mage was being a little too careless in this aspect. It was clear that he was underestimating his opponent. However, Death Mage, who had all sorts of buffs, was not someone to be trifled with. Die! Xiao Yi's killing intent surged. The Xian Yuan sword in his hand felt its master's killing intent, and the light on the sword became even more dazzling. The technique that Death Mage was using was incomparably simple. Even a child would know about it. Other than slashing, it was just slashing. Right now, the two of them were competing to see who would reveal a flaw first. However, both of them were people who had been through hundreds of battles. So how could it be that easy for them to reveal a flaw? Not a single person could be seen in the entire battlefield, and one could only hear the deafening loud sounds, and the ground that was collapsing in all directions. The people who were watching the battle were all stupefied. To demand a debt to this extent, there really isn't anyone else who can do this. The two of them immediately separated from each other. The scythe in Death Mage's hand was already severely damaged, and the blade of the scythe was uneven. Furthermore, a few of Death Mage's ribs had been broken, and his situation was not very good. Furthermore, Death Mage seemed to have exhausted a bit of his strength. However, Xiao Yi was not in a good state either. His golden robe had already been torn into pieces, and the mystic tortoise strange armor that he was wearing was filled with cracks, just like a spider web. Without the defense of the mystic tortoise strange armor, how would Xiao Yi be able to withstand Death Mage's crazy attacks? Furthermore, Xiao Yi's current situation was more or less the same as Death Mage's. After a long period of consumption, Xiao Yi was starting to show signs of fatigue. The amount of spiritual qi in his body was also running out. He quietly took out a pill and stuffed it into his mouth. Xiao Yi felt his spiritual energy slowly recovering, but it was useless. He had to finish the battle quickly. Ha! Xiao Yi shouted, and the Xianyuan sword in his hand shone brightly again. Xianyuan art furious slash. Xiao Yi's eyes immediately turned golden, and his entire body leapt up high into the air. The sword that he was holding with one hand became a two-handed sword, and the powerful pressure that he emitted caused the ground that Death Mage was standing on to collapse. This time, Xiao Yi didn't attack Death Mage, but the weapon in Death Mage's hand, because Xiao Yi felt that Death Mage's weapon was on the verge of breaking. As long as Death Mage's weapon was cut off, Death Mage's disadvantage would be revealed. This was the difference between their equipment. Xiao Yi was wearing a full set of godly equipment, while Death Mage's entire body was filled with skeletons. If it wasn't for the fact that Xiao Yi was buffed with magic, Death Mage would have long been chopped into pieces by the Xianyuan sword. However, Death Mage also knew that he did not have much mana left, and his mood was exceptionally terrible. This damned human actually made me so miserable. Boom! The two weapons clashed against each other again, and just like what Xiao Yi had expected, Death Mage's weapon was instantly cut into two. The silver-white light disappeared, and Death Mage's weapon returned to its original black color. When Death Mage saw that his scythe was cut into two by a human, he immediately let out a roar that would make people tremble with fear. Black fog began to emit out from Death Mage's entire body. Death Mage had already lost his rationality. If Master were to find out that he still ended up like this after dealing with a human, where would his face be? Where would his honor's face be? Damned humans, go to hell. Use your blood to wash away your shame. A huge amount of magic power burst out from Death Mage's body, and the people who were a few kilometers away immediately felt as if a small mountain was pressing down on their bodies. Without caring about anything else, they immediately activated their movement techniques and immediately ran for their lives. However, when they were running for their lives, every single one of them coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood, and Xiao Yi, who was the closest to Death Mage, was able to sense the craziness of Death Mage even more clearly. His gaze was filled with shock and fear. I never thought that Death Mage would be this abnormal. If Death Mage had used his full strength from the start, I might not have been able to defend against him. But now, Xiao Yi quickly stuffed a few pills into its mouth. Right now, he could only fight with his life on the line. If it didn't die, then he would die. Xianyuan art, blood sacrifice. This was the move that Xiao Yi did not want to use the most. It was a move that would cause him to lose 3,000 of his life force. Although he could instantly increase his strength, the side effect was that his lifespan and cultivation would decrease. If he were to use this move, he might not even be able to defeat Tang Wushuang. However, he had no choice but to use it. Xiao Yi grabbed onto the Xianyuan sword with his left hand, and fresh blood immediately gushed out from the Xianyuan sword. The Xianyuan sword was like a gluttonous child, as it continuously sucked the blood out of the Xianyuan sword. Xiao Yi's complexion quickly turned pale. However, in just an instant, a power that could destroy the heavens and earth surged out from his body. This power made Xiao Yi feel as if he was back in the past. Xianyuan art, divine destruction. Xiao Yi's body could be seen emitting a golden light, and it actually merged with the Xianyuan sword. The Xianyuan sword flickered with a multicolored light, and the sword chi spread out in all directions, bringing with it an aura that could crush everything in the world. The temperature in the surroundings suddenly rose, and the aura of a monarch was being emitted from the Xianyuan sword, causing people to have the urge to worship it. However, all of this was useless against Death Mage. Right now, he only wanted to wash away his shame, even if he had to pay the price. This time, Xiao Yi's timing was very good. He made a decisive decision, and used this move without any hesitation. After all, Death Mage was still in the middle of chanting the Xianyuan sword, and he had yet to complete the super magic. In the next moment, Xianyuan sword flew towards Death Mage, and everything that it passed through turned into dust. Soon after, the Xianyuan sword fiercely collided with the edge of the black mist, and a dazzling light immediately blossomed out from the Xianyuan sword, lighting up the night sky once again. Death Mage resisted the power of the Xianyuan sword with all his might. However, he had lost his left arm, and adding on the fact that his magic was exhausted, he was completely unable to resist against Xiao Yi, who had used a forbidden technique. Xianyuan sword slowly pierced through the layer of black mist, and headed straight towards Death Mage, who was within the black mist. Your Honor, Master, subordinate has failed in his task. The scorching heat emitted out from Xianyuan sword instantly turned Death Mage into dust, and after the black mist dispersed, the world returned back to normal. Splash, splash, splash. Heavy rain suddenly started pouring down from the sky, and the rain fell onto the ground that looked like tofu dregs, and onto a person's body. The black tortoise bizarre armor that Xiao Yi was wearing was already completely broken apart, and only the shoulder guard was left. Right now, Xiao Yi was supporting himself with Xianyuan sword, and blood was flowing out from his mouth non-stop. I didn't expect that layer of black mist to be so powerful, to be able to heavily injure me once again, making my situation even worse. Luckily, I managed to kill the black mist without any mishaps. Just that, the injuries that Xiao Yi received will probably take at least 10 years to recover. Cough, cough, cough. Xiao Yi let out a violent cough, and with every cough, blood would spurt out from his mouth. Xiao Yi's entire body was pale and powerless, just like a corpse. Although he managed to kill Death Mage, he wasn't any better off. Even his strongest defense, the Mystic Tortoise Bizarre armor, was shattered, and not to mention the side effects of the forbidden technique. Xiao Yi paid a painful price in exchange for victory. Congratulations to Xiao family head for defeating a strong enemy. We admire you greatly. Congratulations to Xiao family head, we admire you greatly. Xiao family head's heroic bearing is extraordinary, we admire you wholeheartedly. A few figures landed beside Xiao Yi, and Xiao Yi had no choice but to prop his body up and pretend to be very relaxed. Furthermore, he even had to carry a smile on his face. However, this smile of his caused the injuries within his body to worsen, causing him to be unable to vomit blood out. Right now, I am very weak. If they want to attack me, I don't even have the strength to fight back at all. Furthermore, who doesn't want to possess a treasure like Xianyuan's sword? To be able to kill such a strong enemy is more than enough to prove everything. Xiao Yi straightened his back and coldly swept his gaze across everyone. The latter couldn't help but take a step back. I didn't expect that this Xiao Yi still has strength. Chapter 103. Enduring the dizziness, Xiao Yi left the scene. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that Xiao Yi would kill someone. On the way back, Xiao Yi couldn't endure it anymore and vomited blood. After eating a few medicinal pills, he felt a bit better and found a water source to wash his face. He didn't want his wives to worry. Even though he had wiped off the bloodstains, he still exuded a sickly aura, as if he was about to die. After returning to the Xiao mansion, Xiao Yi was in a daze. It was as if he could faint at any moment, as if he was drunk. The 6 wives sat in the front hall, anxiously waiting for their husbands to return. When they saw their husbands stumbling over, the wives immediately went forward to support them. Brother Xiao, what's wrong? Where are you hurt? Nangong Sini's expression changed greatly. This was the first time she saw Xiao Yi so weak. Sini, hurry up and support Brother Xiao. Let me see. The woman who spoke was precisely Xu Nan. Her medical skills were outstanding, and back then, she also fell in love with Xiao Yi's medical skills. Xiao Yi replied weakly, I'm fine. Hold him down, Xu Nan said in a tender voice. She placed her delicate hand on her husband's wrist, and her expression immediately changed. It was too heavy. It was already a miracle that he was still alive. Xu Nan, how is Brother Xiao? Yu Qi asked hurriedly. Xiao Yi gave Xu Nan a look. Xu Nan sighed. Brother Xiao is fine. He will be fine after a few days of rest. However, in his heart, he was afraid that he would not recover even after a few years of rest. But the other wives would rather believe this result. In Long and City's midnight snack stall, Wei Chong and Tang Wei sat at the side of a small table, eating skewers. Tang Wei told Wei Chong about the interesting things that happened when she was young, and Wei Chong listened attentively and drank a mouthful of beer from time to time. Instantly, Wei Chong frowned. Uncle Wei, do you feel uncomfortable? Wei Chong smiled. Maybe I drank too much cold beer. I'm going to the toilet. Uncle Wei, I told you not to drink too much ice. Let me help you over. Xiao Tang, your Uncle Wei, I'm not that weak. Just sit here and wait for me. Wei Chong pressed Tang Wei down, and the moment he turned around, his face was extremely black. Death Mage actually died. How was this possible? After walking into the toilet inside the supper stall, Wei Chong closed the door and said in a deep voice, Evil spirit Death Mage. A black vortex appeared on the ground. The black robe, the scythe of death with the smell of death appeared once again. Of course, there was also the skeleton. Master, Death Mage shouted out with deep regret, and prepared to greet Yi Hua. Wei Chong shouted in a low voice. All right, stop kneeling, the ground is very dirty. What's going on? I told you to collect a debt and kill someone. How did you end up killing yourself? Wei Chang was unable to understand. Death Mage's strength was not weak. Even if he couldn't defeat Death Mage, he should still be able to run away. Yet he was actually killed by someone. Master, I'm suffering too. Master, it is Subordinate who has underestimated the enemy and has brought shame to his honor and master. Let Subordinate complete this mission and then use my death to atone for my sins. To be honest, Death Mage didn't want to be summoned by his master again. It was too shameful. This was what it meant to be reckless. He lost completely because of his recklessness. Wei Chang's mood wasn't very good either. If his honor were to know that there was such a process in the mission this time around, I wonder what kind of rage his honor would have. Wei Chang seemed to have already heard his honor's curses. Enough. I don't want to listen to your explanation. You better keep this matter to yourself. If this matter were to be spread out, the first person that I will kill is you. Who would dare to talk about such a shameful matter to others? Just how shameful would that be? Master, be at ease. Subordinate will keep my mouth shut. Wei Chang paused for a moment, then asked while wrinkling his brows. Is that Xiaoyi really that powerful? Even you are not his match. Master, that Xiaoyi is indeed not bad. He is the strongest human that Subordinate has ever seen. However, Subordinate did not lose to him. Rather, Subordinate lost to him. Death Mage said embarrassedly. This is all because Master's requirements are too high. I can't kill Xiaoyi. I can only cripple Xiaoyi. Controlling Xiaoyi is very difficult. Wei Chang couldn't help but slap onto Death Mage's skull. Who did you learn this kind of conduct from? I will give you one last chance. If you are still unable to complete this mission, then you will have to stay in purgatory forever. I will obey Master's command. Death Mage held back a stomach full of anger. This damned human actually caused me to be reprimanded by Master. If it wasn't for Master only ordering me to kill one person, I would have definitely slaughtered all of them. Go. Seeing that Subordinate had disappeared, Wei Chang rubbed onto the bridge of his nose. In the end, didn't his honor still lose because of being reckless? Sigh. Which of the 7 sins isn't reckless? In actuality, Death Mage can't be blamed. His understanding of human nature is too little. Perhaps it is time for him to find a girlfriend. Death Mage expressed that I am not interested in women. I am only interested in balls. Knock, knock, knock. Uncle Wei, is your diarrhea very bad? I bought medicine for you just now. Tang Wei knocked on the door and shouted out tenderly. Hearing Tang Wei's voice, Wei Chang, who had a bad temper, gradually relaxed. Opening the door, Wei Chang smiled and said, Xiao Tang, I am fine now. Uncle Wei, why does your complexion look so bad? Let me bring you to the hospital. Tang Wei touched onto Wei Chang's cheek and said with concern. Wei Chang held onto Tang Wei's small hand. There is no need to go to the hospital. I will send you back first. Are you really fine? Tang Wei was still very worried. Wei Chang pinched onto Tang Wei's nose. I am fine. When Death Mage arrived at the scene of the accident once again, he discovered that the damned human had disappeared. And his phone was destroyed as well. Death Mage was simply about to go crazy. That is an Apple X that I bought while enduring the pain in my heart. Not only does this damned human want to pay me back 50 billion and a human life, he also wants to pay me back my Apple X. After finished speaking, Death Mage disappeared from where he was and arrived at the entrance of Xiao residence. The 2 security guards were stupefied. At the front hall, Shu Nan was currently helping Xiao Yi bandage up his external injuries. Xiao Yi's internal injuries could only be slowly nursed back to health. Cinny, I will be going into closed-door training soon, and I won't be able to accompany you and Yin to register for the tournament tomorrow. Xiao Yi said gravely. After going through this battle, Xiao family will definitely reach new heights. However, I have to recover my strength as soon as possible. Nangong Cinny said concernedly. Brother Xiao, you can go into closed-door training with a peace of mind. I will take care of the matters at home. And with you two here, I can be at ease. Xiaoyi stretched out his hand and touched onto his beloved wife's cheek, and doting could be seen within his gaze. Meanwhile, Nangong Cinny was enjoying her husband's caress very much. Gigi, Immediately, a strange sound transmitted into the front hall. The tender expression on Xiao Yi's face froze, and the 6 wives turned their heads and looked towards the entrance. Sickle, black robe. It was a strange sound. Death Mage walked towards the front hall step by step, and stopped when he was 5 meters away from the front hall. The atmosphere in the front hall immediately froze. Xiao Yi looked at Death Mage, who was walking towards him foolishly, and his mind was in a daze. Didn't I turn Death Mage into powder? How long has it been since then? Why did Death Mage come out again? Or could it be that Death Mage has a brother? GGG. Imperial Translation. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Xiao Yi couldn't be any more familiar with this kind of sound. Why did Death Mage come back to life? Why is it like this? In order to kill Death Mage, I paid a painful price. Why did Death Mage come back to life in an instant? No, this isn't fair. The heavens aren't fair. Chapter 104. Death Mage stood there woodenly and didn't make any movements. It was as if he was a relative or friend who had come to visit him. However, everyone present knew that he didn't come with good intentions. Xiao Yi's wives knew that they weren't a match for this monster, but they still protected him. If he wanted to die, he would kill them first. If Lai Gu was here, he would definitely take Xiao Yi in and train him well. Lai Gu wasn't a picky eater, and furthermore, all of Xiao Yi's wives were beautiful and alluring. It was a pity that Death Mage wasn't interested in them. Get out! You're not welcome here. Yuqi didn't know where she got her courage from, but she shouted in a deep voice. Xiao Yi propped himself up from the chair. He was afraid that he would be doomed tonight. Let them out. Your opponent is me, Xiao Yi coldly said. However, the moment he spoke, his wound opened up and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Brother Xiao, you can't fight anymore. Xu Nan immediately supported her husband and used her white sleeves to wipe off the blood stains. Her eyes were filled with worry. Yuqi nodded. Brother Xiao, although we don't know much about martial arts, we can still fight with this monster. Xiao Yi gasped for breath. Now wasn't the time to be a hero. He had to run as fast as he could. Why are you so disobedient? Let's go. Xiao Yi cried out in pain. He didn't know that he would have such a day. In the past, it was always him who made others suffer, but now it was his turn. Was this heaven's retribution for him? Nangong Sini supported her husband and said softly, Brother Xiao, even if we die, we will die together. Yes, that's right. The eyes of the 6 women were firm. They did not wish to be born on the same day, but they wished to die on the same day. Why are you doing this, Sini? Take good care of Yen. Yuqi, be a good girl and give birth to your daughter. Xiao Yi's tone was almost pleading. However, the girls had already made up their minds. If they were to die, they would die together. Do you want me to kneel down and beg you? Xiao Yi roared angrily and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Yuqi's white pajamas were instantly dyed red. Brother Xiao. Brother Xiao. Right when the 2 of them were reluctant to part with each other, Death Mage finally moved. Stretching out his hand, Death Mage pointed towards the phone that was on the table. Everyone was shocked. Xiao Yi said in a deep voice, Give it the phone. Nangong Sini picked up the phone and passed it to Death Mage. When Death Mage held onto the phone, he discovered that it was not unlocked, so he gestured to Nangong Sini. This handphone belonged to Xu Nan. Looking at the skeleton in front of her, she did not feel any fear in her heart. She picked up the handphone from the skeleton's hand and scanned her own face, then heavily threw the handphone onto Death Mage's hand. GGG, Imperial Translation. He has character. He reached out his hand and tapped on the screen of his phone, and the screen lit up. It was still scrolling. It was still the same word. Pay back the money. Everyone was startled. I had originally thought that the other party was here to take revenge, but I didn't expect that the other party was still here to return the money. Why is he so stubborn? Xiao Yi heaved a sigh of relief. If it was just money, then it was fine. Sini, prepare the money, Xiao Yi said weakly. Nangong Sini frowned. We don't have that much cash. Even if we want to raise money, it's not something that can be done in a short while. Then we'll use real estate to pay for it, Xiao Yi said. Although it was not worth it, It was the only hope to save his family. Nangong Sini nodded her head. Suddenly, she felt that Wang Debao was too much of a mechanism. A few days ago, I was still laughing at him for being stupid. But I didn't expect that he was actually a smart person. Regret, I blame myself for randomly coming up with this idea. Wait a moment, I'll go and write the transfer letter. Nangong Sini said coldly. Death Mage actually nodded his head, causing everyone to let out a sigh of relief. As long as the problem could be solved with money, then it wouldn't be a problem. Suddenly, Death Mage saw a television that was placed at the side. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Death Mage walked over, turned on the television, and selected CCTV 5. However, the match had just ended, and when Death Mage saw the score on the television, his entire person felt bad. Forget about being killed once, I even lost the ball. I even lost all of my belongings. I can't tolerate this anymore. I'm going to castrate those useless humans. They can't even win against South Korea. Xiaoyi was feeling very bad right now. From the start until now, the other party had already watched the World Cup 4 times. And 2 of those times were even during the World Cup. Why is it so attached to the World Cup? Why did I lose to such a strange opponent? Why? My illustrious reputation has been ruined tonight. Bang! Death Mage smashed the coffee table with a punch, giving everyone a fright. Death Mage thought that the other party was going to flip out. But who knew that he would walk back and forth, point at the television and let out that horrifying voice, seemingly as if he was cursing at the television. After cursing at the television, Death Mage decided that he was going to get back his money. Those money that they had was illegal. I have the right to get it back. After I finish this matter, I will go and get back my debt. In any case, I had gambled 1,000 RMB, and that was all of my belongings. Recently, Master has been giving me very little work, and I am not able to earn much money. I am even almost unable to pay the electricity bill. And this time, I am also unable to draw any water from the 50 billion that I stepped on. That is His Honor's money. Just thinking about it makes me scared. Death Mage turned his head around and took a look at the beauties. The things that are on their necks, fingers, and wrists. Those things seem to be quite valuable. Xiaoyi's wives naturally noticed Death Mage's gaze. Although Death Mage doesn't have any eyeballs, they were still able to feel that Death Mage was looking at their bodies. This shameless skeleton. Death Mage hugged onto his scythe and walked here and there. Sometimes he would even walk to the side of the 6 women and look at their progress. Death Mage was acting just like a loafer. Xiaoyi found it hard to believe that he would lose to an opponent like this. Death Mage doesn't even have a bit of the demeanor of an expert. In any case, I have killed you once. But you don't even look at me. You are simply a bastard. Did your hatred get eaten by dogs? About half an hour later, Nangong Sini finished drafting the transfer documents, and even stamped her official seal and signature on the documents. Nangong Sini handed over the documents and said coldly, "The market value of these 3 companies is more than 50 billion. Only more, no less." Death Mage didn't even look at the documents, and kept them into his bosom, then pointed at the beauties. The 6 beauties couldn't help but take a step back. Xiaoyi even slammed the table and stood up, but very quickly, he vomited out a mouthful of blood and sat back down. Right now Death Mage just wanted to say, "The thoughts of you humans are too dirty." After Death Mage signaled to the women finally understood. This skeleton wants jewelry. However, these jewelry were all given to them by Xiaoyi, although they were a bit reluctant to part with these jewelry. But no matter how reluctant they were, they still had to hand over the jewelry. Death Mage happily kept the jewelry, then picked up his phone and tapped on it again. He was preparing to do one last thing. Death Mage took out his phone. Collect interest. Xiaoyi and the others cursed at Death Mage for being shameless. These 3 companies are all worth more than 50 billion, and yet, Death Mage still wants to collect interest. However, when Xiaoyi saw the last few words on the phone, his heart sunk. One life. Death Mage seemed to have forgotten something as he typed out another message. Chapter 105. Death Mage recalled his master's instructions. It seems to be like this. If I didn't remember wrongly, Xiao Yi's entire body was shaking. This was going too far. He actually wanted him to kill the person he loved the most. Otherwise, all of them would die. Xiao Yi opened his bloodshot eyes wide and suddenly shouted, "Bastard! I'll fight it out with you. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Brother Xiao, don't move anymore. You will die if you continue like this." Shunan knew that her husband's injuries must have worsened again. "Don't pull me, I want to perish together with it." Xiao Yi rolled and crawled over to Death Mage's side, then grabbed onto Death Mage's bones and shouted angrily. Death Mage remained indifferent as he waited for them to make their choice. "It has been a long time since I have heard such words from Death Mage, and I am feeling a bit nostalgic." Nangong Sini didn't pull her husband. She said softly, "Brother Xiao, you often saved me in the past. This time, it's Sini's turn to save you, and the whole Xiao family." Xiao Yi turned his head in a daze and looked at his wife's gentle smile. Bits and pieces of their past flashed through his mind like a movie. No, Sini, you can't do this." Xiao Yi couldn't even stand up and crawled to his wife. Nangong Sini squatted down and combed her husband's hair. She gently wiped the blood from the corner of her husband's mouth. "Brother Xiao, to be able to know you, Sini has never regretted in this life. Although you were very annoying at the beginning, I still like you. After I leave, you have to take good care of Yin Er, understand?" Xiao Yi stretched out his trembling hand and caressed his wife's cheek. "Don't we still have a long way to go? Yin Er cannot be without a mother." "Brother Xiao, Sister Sini, let me do it." Shunan took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. Yuqi couldn't stop crying. "Let me do it. Yuqi, you have a child. Let me do it. Let me do it, Brother Xiao." Nangong Sini's eyebrows furrowed as she lightly shouted, "All of you shut up. Your mission in the future is to take good care of Brother Xiao. This was all my idea. If I had asked Brother Xiao to return the money, this wouldn't have happened. I should be the one to bear the consequences." Death Mage seemed to have become impatient from waiting. "Hurry up and kill one of them, so that I can go and collect the debt from the others." Hee, Imperial Translator. "Hurry up." Nangong Sini could tell that he was telling them to hurry up. She said softly, "Brother Xiao, let me do something for the Xiao family. Otherwise Yin'er will not be safe. Where there's life there's hope. Don't look down on women." Nangong Sini was asking her husband to endure and wait for him to rise again. "Brother Xiao, Sini won't be able to take care of you in the future. You have to take good care of yourself, and Yin he's our only son." Nangong Sini, who had always been strong, couldn't help but burst into tears when she thought of her son. As an immortal emperor, Xiao Yi had never cried before. But now, his face was full of tears and helplessness. "Sini, let me kill you. How could I do it?" Xiao Yi cried out in pain. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were bloodshot. Nangong Sini immediately stood up, picked up the Xianyuan sword at the side, and then placed it in her husband's hand. "Brother Xiao, since things have come to this, do you want to see us all die? Do you want to see Yin die? Do you want to see the child in Yuqi's belly die? Since when did you become so indecisive?" Xiao Yi had never felt that the Xianyuan sword was so heavy. He looked at his wife and said, "I can't do it, I really can't do it." Just when the Xiao family was reluctant to part with the Xianyuan sword, a black whirlpool appeared in the hall. A figure walked out from the whirlpool, and his entire body was wrapped in black mist. The Xiao family was all stupefied. "Who is this?" However, in the next second, they were even more shocked. Death Mage retreated a few steps and knelt on the ground. With both of his hands on the ground, he respectfully shouted, "Master." That's right, the person who came was Wei Chong. He had just sent Tang Wei home, and realized that his subordinates were not done with their business. Did something happen again? Thus he specially came over to take a look. Xiao Yi only felt that the world was spinning. This skeleton was already very powerful, and it actually made the black mist so respectful. Then what realm was this black mist at? Xiao Yi had never felt that he was so insignificant before. He felt that this black mist could kill him with a single finger. Just who are they? It's impossible that they are the people that man called over. How could this kind of expert be controlled by others? Wei Chong nodded. Death Mage stood up, and took out his phone to type something. Then he showed his phone. We pay our respects to Master. Everyone from the Xiao family had their own dignity, but Death Mage had already released his might, causing everyone to kneel on the ground. Wei Chong looked at the person in front of him coldly. To actually dare to refuse to pay me back, you truly deserve to die. After taking over the document that Death Mage passed over, Wei Chong took a look at the document and kept it. Then he said faintly, "Hurry up." Death Mage replied respectfully, and Wei Chong took another look at the document, then stepped into the black whirlpool and disappeared. Death Mage typed another word. Last minute. All of the women felt that they had provoked an extremely powerful person this time around. This was a feeling that they had never felt before. In the past, they felt that they still had the ability to fight back, but the person who just appeared did not even have the thought of fighting back. How could Xiaoyi not have the same feeling? That person just now was completely capable of killing all of us. So why did he want me to kill my beloved woman? Could it be that you all aren't afraid of me taking revenge? What Wei Chong was least afraid of was taking revenge. If the person behind me comes, you will slowly kill the woman beside me. Brother Xiao, don't take revenge for me. Live on properly, we cannot afford to provoke them. Nangong Sini gave the most rational suggestion to Xiao Yi. The other party is like a titan, and we are just ants. It is already a kind of leniency for them to not kill all of us. Only until death did Nangong Sini realize this point. Just how lucky is it to only kill one person? Without waiting for Xiao Yi to react, Nangong Sini grabbed onto Xian Yuan's sword that was in her husband's hand and fiercely pulled. TSK. This was the sound of a sharp object piercing into flesh. Xian Yuan's sword pierced through Nangong Sini's abdomen, and the tip of the sword that was dripping with blood appeared on Nangong Sini's back. Sini! Xiao Yi roared out as he looked at his own hand in disbelief. I killed my beloved. No! Xiao Yi hugged onto his wife and roared towards the sky, and tears of blood flowed out from the corner of his eyes. Nangong Sini, who was lying in her husband's embrace, revealed out a trace of a smile and said weakly, Brother Xiao, your embrace is still so warm. After finished speaking, Nangong Sini slowly closed her beautiful eyes, and Death Mage disappeared from Xiao Residence as well. Death Mage was preparing to collect his debt. Xiao Residence's main hall was filled with a sorrowful atmosphere. Xiao Yi sat on the ground and foolishly hugged onto his wife's corpse. Both of his eyes were already unfocused, and he looked as if he had become demented. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.